Hey folks, welcome to another money space with me, Kalu Aja. Of course, in this space, we're talking money, we're talking personal finance, and of course, we're talking the economy. So this week we have a very, very important topic. It sounds very wonkish, very high level, but it's very, very important because this is one topic that's going to affect you directly, i.e., directly, right? We're talking does Nigeria need an independent central bank? Of course, we're asking this question because there are reports now out in Nigeria, as reported by Bloomberg and of course from the grapevine, that the Nigerian legislators want to take away the monetary powers of the Central Bank of Nigeria. In essence, what they want to do is this: they want to remove the power of the central bank governor and the board, the Monetary Policy Committee, to set interest rates in Nigeria. They want to give that over to a quote unquote committee that will be appointed and or report to the executive committee, to the Minister of Finance. Let's put it that way. So monetary policy would leave the Central Bank of Nigeria and will then go to the central bank to the Ministry of Finance. That's a very, very dangerous proposition, guys. And I just want to explain what it means to you and how it affects you and why we're taking it so seriously that I want to have a space as regards it. So first of all, as we currently stand, the Central Bank of Nigeria is quote unquote independent, which means that when the Central Bank of Nigeria sets interest rates, it's not supposed to go to the executive to ask for permission. But let's even dial back and let me explain why certain interest rates are even important and how that occurs in the economy. So first of all, guys, when you go to your bank to borrow money, you are charged interest on the money you borrow. So you are renting money from the bank charges you interest. How does the bank set that interest rate? The bank uses the interest rate set by the central bank in that country. So in Nigeria, our benchmark interest rate is called the monetary policy rate. So when you go to your bank is basing its interest rate to you based on the monetary policy rate. So how does it work? When the Central Bank of Nigeria or any central bank sees inflation, let's define inflation now as lot of money in circulation with not a lot of goods. So you see general price levels going up in the economy with velocity. Let's define inflation as that. So we see prices rising. How does the central bank fight inflation? Well, they increase the cost of you getting credit. So the central bank will tell the banks, our monetary policy rate is, for instance, 20%. That means no bank will lend to you below 20% because if they ever need to borrow money in the short term, they have to run back to the Central Bank of Nigeria. So in effect, when they set the monetary policy rate at 20, what they are doing is setting a floor on credit in Naira from Nigeria. That means nobody can lend to you below 20. When they make money expensive, i.e. interest rates expensive, the idea is that it reduces your appetite for credit. So as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, you don't borrow as much because you're going to pay more if you have credit. This is the role of all central banks in the world. The concept of central banking is very, very new. And it came around central banks that were invented to fight inflation. So literally, the reason why you have the Fed, the Bank of England, as not private banks, but as government in quote banks is because they are set up to fight inflation. So who creates inflation? Milton Friedman said inflation is a monetary phenomenon, meaning that it is created when you print too much money because it's the government that owns the money. So when the government prints too much money, that too much money is now the too much money chasing the too few goods in the economy, which is now inflation. So let's dial back now to what the Nigerian legislators want to do. What they want to do is to say the Central Bank of Nigeria will no longer set interest rates. Why? I give you the answer. It's because they want an executive person, which is a politician, to set interest rates. So what will happen if that happens? That would mean that they will simply reduce the MPR or give the federal government of Nigeria a special window via reduction in the MPR for government borrowing, which would then allow the federal government of Nigeria to borrow more. Because right now, if they borrow, they are hamstrung by the high interest cost. But if you remove the high interest cost, of course, they would borrow and print as much as they can. Because now, they don't have to worry about a secondary body. Raising interest rates are making borrowing expensive for them. So look at it right now. If the central bank borrows money today, they have to pay about 20%. Because MPR in Nigeria is also that double digits. It's also high. But if you then go and tell the Central Bank of Nigeria that a Ministry of Finance that is run by the executive is going to be the one to set interest rate, then what do you think is going to happen? Clearly, they would borrow at much lower rates, or they would desire to borrow at much lower rates. So they will reduce the MPR. If they reduce the MPR for federal government, or even for just those guys that are borrowing, it allows money to flow with velocity. It will increase the spending by the federal government, and it will cause your own savings to lose value because it then incentivizes inflation. They've done this before. This is not the first time Nigeria has done this before. In the past, under the military, Nigeria in 1997, they took this monetary policy also away from the Central Bank of Nigeria to the Ministry of Finance. Go back and look at the inflation rate in Nigeria under the military. Then come back and understand what we're trying to do here. Today, we are fighting high inflation that is caused by the government going out to print and borrow in excess of 21 trillion. This is outside the budget. That 21 trillion has now been securitized, meaning that we have taken that 21 trillion and made it into a bond that you and I and all Nigerians are going to pay. So by taking the rights, the power of monetary policy away from the central bank to a politician, you can see that the idea is to borrow more at a lower interest cost. And that is not going to help or to aid any Nigerian holding the Naira. The signal is clear. We're going to tax you more, and we're going to depreciate the currency by reducing the interest rate to borrow. There's no other reason why they will do this apart from borrowing. They also want to increase ways and means, which means that they can allow the federal government to borrow 3 years ways and means. We're not clear if it is 3 years cumulative or if it is 3 years average. Do you know what that means? That means they can simply say for the last 3 years, we made revenue of 20 billion, 20 billion, 20 billion. Therefore, we can borrow 10% of 60 billion. Doesn't make any sense. You just wake up and you borrow because there's no tax revenues. So instead of creating tax revenues, they want to go back and borrow. It's bad news, guys. You should be very, very worried about this. That's why we're doing a space so we can educate you on this. Your Naira will lose value because your executive is going to spend more than they can bring in through revenues, and they're trying to cover the deficit, the budget deficit, by printing. Hence, this idea to reduce interest rates by giving it to a ministry official and not to the independent central bank. Guys, my rant is almost done. I'll let you guys speak, and I'll come back and talk about why. I mean, the central bank set this up. The central bank under Emefiele was badly run. So they set themselves up for this because now the guys will say, well, Emefiele printed, so we want to control Emefiele. So he set himself up for drags. But Nigeria is bigger than Emefiele. We shouldn't use that as an excuse to put ourselves in room for sanctions globally, because now everyone knows that the Naira is not run by the central bank, but by a ministry-appointed committee. Undoka, what's your take on this? I see you're the best to hop in here. What's your take, sir? Go ahead. Mtenduka, real quick, go ahead. Or I jump into my spaces. Yeah, Kalu, I just want to be clear. I'm reading my DMs now. Just want to be clear, Kalu, on this. Just to be clear, I read the Bloomberg article, and it says that the legislatures want to approve a committee headed by the Minister of Finance that would Yes, but the Minister of Finance is the coordinating Minister of the Economy. Is this not why they are doing it? I did not simply just saying that because the Minister of Finance is the coordinating. I get what you're going to. So he's asking the question. He's saying that because the Minister of Finance is the coordinating Minister of the Economy, then that guy should be the one to set interest rates in the economy because he's coordinating. No, sir, that's not true. Look at it again. Let's give me another scenario. The executive's job is to spend money. If you become a president or a commissioner or whatever, your job is to spend money. So you want to spend money. The control, or should we say, the way we keep you in check is by having an independent central bank that can control your desire to spend by raising interest rates. So look at the US and look at, if you remember how the US was fighting under President Donald Trump. When Donald Trump wanted interest rates to reduce so that he could spend more or to allow the economy to grow, and the Fed chairman was fighting him to say, no, we've got to keep interest rates higher or to reduce them slower just to make sure that we don't have this uptick in inflation. Even today in America, the Fed and the presidency are still fighting. The presidency wants rates to go down. The Fed is saying, nope, we still don't see inflation moderating as fast as we want, hence want to keep it the way it is. If you take inflation away, the power to set monetary policy rates away from the CBN, all you are doing is you are incentivizing the executive to spend more. That's essentially it. And that's why there's this separation of the central bank in every country from the Ministry of Finance in every country. You can't say because you give someone the title as coordinating minister that allows the person to spend. This is a spend, and it will have a direct effect on your wallet, because when the government starts to spend, or put it a better way, when they start to print and spend because the laws allow them to spend at 3 years average of revenue, and it will affect your naira directly because there's no revenue coming in to backstop that spending. This is print and spend, not earn and spend. It is dangerous for the naira and dangerous for the budget. So I hope you get that point very clearly. It has nothing to do with coordinating minister of the economy. And number two, Carlo, just to be clear, is it 3 years average revenue, or are they saying that they want to spend 3 years of what the government has earned? Can you clarify that point? Yes, we are also not clear on that. The proposal I saw online says 3 years revenues of the federal government is going to be the quote unquote the basket that they're going to use to determine how much they can borrow via ways and means. Right now, it is 5% revenues, or I think it's moved up to 10%. Before they changed the law, it was 5% of past year's revenues can be spent on ways and means. MFLA blew that out of the water. Right now, I'm seeing 3 years, but they're not clear. Is it 3 years average, or is it 3 years addition? Then becomes the base to use to calculate how much you spend. Not clear on that, so I can give you an answer. Chinedu, what's on your mind, Chinedu? Go ahead. Thanks for DM, guys. Appreciate it.
Hello?
Yeah, Chinedu, yeah, go ahead. What's up?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well, sir. What's up?
Yeah, it's a question that I want to ask, because to me, I don't know if the Central Bank of Nigeria is truly independent from the executive. Considering what happened during Emefiele and the Buhari tenure, are you saying that the executive in Nigeria are not in control of the central bank? Where the central bank, we are busy printing money, the central bank governor will tell you that the president said. So looking at all these things, is this autonomy just perceived autonomy, or is it real autonomy? So
well, I mean, Chinedu, it's you see the problem when you ask this question, you put people like us in a tight spot. We can't talk again. We can't explain our way again because Emefiele put us in this situation. According to the laws of the Central Bank of Nigeria and the laws of Nigeria, on paper, the Central Bank of Nigeria is independent. According to the law setting them up, they can spend money to defend the naira. They can set monetary rates as they deem fit. As a matter of fact, the foreign reserves that Nigeria has are not owned by the Federation of Nigeria. They are owned by the Central Bank of Nigeria. At least 80% of that money is owned by the Central Bank of Nigeria. The Central Bank of Nigeria is not the same as the federal government of Nigeria. So Emefiele went in and used these powers for the executive. They promised him that he was going to be president or vice president. So he was spending money as campaign finance for the Buhari administration. That's what was happening. He printed the dollar equivalent of what Emefiele printed, borrowed, and allowed the federal government spend as overdraft was 50 billion United States dollars. 50 billion. We did overdraft of more than our revenues. Can you imagine that you go to a bank and you are borrowing more than your revenues? So Emefiele set this up that has now allowed the lawmakers come in and say we want to regulate you guys, because he didn't take his independence with the what's the word now? He didn't respect his own independence. So they've come. But the point is that the cure cannot be worse than the disease. If you give this to lawmakers to spend, just imagine people that are importing SUV and the people you want to give the power to set interest rates. What do you think will happen? So Chinendu, you are right. I mean, on paper, he should be independent. That's why I want a strong central bank governor. The guy that is here now, the central bank governor now, he has talked the talk. He seems to be walking the walk. I think you should let him do his job. Why now bring a minister to come and run the CBN? The CBN is one of the agencies in Nigeria that has performed its duties under this administration. They have done their duties under this administration credibly. Why change a winning team? Why change what is working? That's my take. I know you have to come back on that. I agree with you that it looks funny.
You see, sorry that I have to do a follow-up on that.
Oh, sure.
Let's forget about Emefiele. And, okay, from the time of Obasanjo, it seems that the only central bank governor we've had in this country that was allowed to function as a central bank governor was Soludo during his time. Because even if we look back at what happened during the Goodluck Jonathan administration, I'm meant to believe that this central bank receives money and keeps our SS crude account. You can remember that Lamido Sanusi, the then central bank governor, sent a letter to the president, which he failed to act upon. Then the letter was he now wrote a public letter saying that the NNPC are not remitting, or that they've not remitted so and so amount of money. That time, people rallied around the president condemning Sanusi. That was the beginning of the impunity we have in NNPC today. Because we swept that under the carpet, which now encouraged the next administration that they can go on and do whatever they like. And now, I think the thing should be to put more pressure on the government. We don't have the right leadership. It's not just Buhari that started it. Somebody set a precedence that this man followed. And if you look at the man that is there now, he's not has not seen the authority there. He's trying to push this thing. There is no response from the executive arm that manages the physical side.
Okay.
So
I hear what you're going to with that.
At the end of the day, the rot that we have in NNPC today is still as a result of the fact that the man who is in charge of managing our SS crew account complained. And I remember when people were encouraged to save and they refused, governors refused. And you see, we have to put, I think, Chinendu,
just
on the executive to do
Chinendu, I hear you. Just for people that are listening, let me try to explain what happened with Sanusi and Goodluck. It wasn't maybe as you're saying it. Look at what happened. Sanusi was the banker of the Federation. He's a central bank banker. In the past, in those days, when the NNPC sells crude oil, it goes to the account in JP Morgan. That account in JP Morgan is owned by Nigeria. It's owned by the central bank, the NNPC, the account in JP Morgan. Now, what was going on was that Nigeria was paying subsidy. The NNPC was paying subsidy from that account. So Sanusi was trying to spark a conversation to say what is happening right now. That to say that, listen, I need to get the revenues in dollars to my account first before you can pay subsidy. And he's correct. The revenue should hit the account first, then you should pay subsidy. What was going on was that the revenues were being paid directly. NNPC was doing, okay, we'll do net, we'll give you oil, you give us PMS, blah, blah, blah. So that was Sanusi's target. But when he said money was missing. That was where maybe I think he went wrong. Instead of saying, oh, I want this money to be accountable, to come to my account, he said the money was missing. The money was not missing, but it wasn't being remitted to his account. So he then saw the federal government came and said, no, the money is not missing. This is where the money is, blah, blah, blah. It's not being reconciled. So it caused a big fight. Eventually, Sanusi left the office. What is going on? So that didn't cause the NNPC. What is happening then was remittances between NNPC and CBN. What is happening now is that the Ministry of Finance, which is an executive arm, is being asked to take over the monetary policy of the central bank. The central bank is one that sets interest rates in the economy. If that would happen, there will be a disconnect. It is like there will be a disconnect. The Ministry of Finance will not raise interest rates as aggressively as the Central Bank of Nigeria. So they are going to finance the budget deficit of the federal government by keeping rates the same or lower. The reason why central banks are independent is because they punish you when you spend more money. They punish you by raising rates. That's what they do. So if you take away that power from the quote unquote independent CBN and you give it to a minister, why would a minister in the same party, in the same government, raise interest rates for the same party, for the same government? You see what I'm going to do? Let me get Sir. Hang in there. Let's just get Sir X to speak. I can come back to you. Sir X, I see your hand up.
Hello, thank you. I want to quickly get clarification on something. It might be a bit out of line. I want to understand something about the CBN increasing interest rates. We are made to understand that if the increase in interest rates is to mop up cash from the economy. Okay. And at the same time, the CBN is increasing interest rate to mop up cash from the economy. Then the presidency or the executive, they are also dishing out conditional cash transfer. Is it not in a situation of running around circle? CBN is mopping up money. The executive, they are putting money back into the... So that's just what I want to get clarification on.
I mean, it's a great question to get clarification on because what you're basically saying is that there are two competing objectives of the same government, like the CBN is not the executive, more or less. If we were to run it the way it's supposed to be run on paper, the central bank is monetary policy. The Ministry of Finance can be fiscal policy, right? It is the Ministry of Finance, the executive, that is pursuing all those cash disbursements through cash money, all those stuff. That's spending. Humanitarian ministry, building roads, that's all stimulative spending, right? Whether you call it stimulative or not, that's spending. The job of the central bank is to say, how much money is in circulation? Can this money in circulation cause there to be a rise in general prices leading to inflation? That's their job. So what they do, if you read, what they do is that when they see the economy getting heated up, they increase interest rates. If the economy is going into a recession, they reduce interest rates. So they are sort of balancing the cash flow in the economy to ensure the economy does not overheat or stall and fall into a recession. That's what the central bank does. The point is, and again, for Nigeria's case, let's not forget, the Ways and Means has been turned into an emergency stopgap before you pass your budget, into a means of financing for the federal government. So if you take the Ways and Means and the monetary policy rate away from the central bank to the ministry, it's like you say your treasurer, you have an association that you belong to now, you say your president is going to be president, he's going to be treasurer, he's going to be spender, he's going to be auditor. One person. Where's the check and balance? So the ministry will say we want to spend 10 billion. Then the ministry will go and approve ways and means for the government that it serves. The same ministry. Where's the check and the balance? This is the point. This is why we're saying it's a dangerous proposition. Because what they want to do today is to say they are going to spend. There is no tax revenues now. Look at the numbers. Look at the budget numbers. The tax revenues are not coming in. NLC is asking for increase in minimum wage. Where is the money going to come from? Our revenue comes from crude oil sales. We are not even meeting OPEC quota. We're at 1.4, 1.5. OPEC quota is 1.5. Budget is 1.7. So forget even budget. We've not even met OPEC quota. Where will they get the money to pay NLC? They are going to borrow from Nigerians and abroad. But they can't do that because the laws already says that you cannot borrow more from ways and means, and also you cannot print more. They have all these DMO laws. So what they are trying to do is to set the stage. If they take monetary policy away from the CBN, then the Ministry of Finance will simply say, oh yeah, you can go ahead and borrow 3 years. We're not yet clear on that. You can go ahead and borrow to pay wages. So we are going to be borrowing legally to pay salaries, with your same naira that you are holding, sir. So you can see the dynamite coming down the hill. And if you don't stop these guys now, they will pass it and the people start to complain, oh, we didn't know about this. This is dangerous. Again, we've done this in the past before. The military in 1997 took away this power of monetary policy from the CBN and gave it to the Ministry of Finance. It was pressure that made them take it back. I'm not even talking about the international sanctions. Imagine what will happen when other central banks find out that it's not the central bank that sets monetary policy in Nigeria. How then do we explain to the IMF and all that oh, it's a minister or it's a bureaucrat somewhere that is appointed by the president that sets monetary policy rate? Doesn't make any sense. And by the way, I'm looking at the budget website. The report, the implementation report is no longer available. I don't know if anyone can check. This is normally where I get my information from. The quarterly implementation report is offline. I don't know if it's on purpose or if it's just that maybe it's offline. But the site is up, but the report for 2023, we've not even gone to 2024. It's offline now. So, sir, did you have any comeback or you're okay with that explanation?
No, yeah, I'm okay.
Excellent. Thanks. Victor, what's on your mind, Victor?
Thanks, Carlo. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. It's a weird one because I don't know. I know there are countries, maybe a few small island nations that don't have central banks, but I don't know, to the best of my knowledge, pardon my ignorance, that the central bank is not independent. Vis-a-vis the rules you mentioned, implementing monetary policy through interest rates, controlling currency. I don't know of any. So I don't know where this idea is coming from, and whoever thought it makes sense, because it doesn't. And the financial world is like a system, and when such things come up, perception is negative and it affects every other thing. So it doesn't make sense to me. I think I like to learn if there's any current country that the central bank is not independent.
No,
who thought this is a good idea? I don't know.
Remember what I said, right? The concept of central banking is rather new. I think it came either from the First World War or the Second World War. I think it's the First World War, 1914 or so. That's when we had central banks because of hyperinflation in Germany and the rest. So the thinking was that because we did not control hyperinflation, that led to Hitler, that led to the war. So that's the whole idea of that you have to have someone that is managing central banking all across the world. The key sole function for central banks is managing price stability, i.e. inflation. Only America has full employment as an addition to what their central bank does. Even the Bank of England used to be a private bank. Then they got the powers to manage the exchange inflation rates in that country as well. Someone told me, and I can't verify this, someone told me, this is rumor, so again I'm caveating rumor, that they went to they went to the guy in charge of banking and they told the guy that they want to reduce MPR so they can borrow. And the guy told them no. That's why they are going to the Ministry of Finance to do it. That's what someone told me offline. I can't confirm that. But the whole idea, it's a very, very simple thing. Look at the federal government of Nigeria borrowing. In June 2015, do you know how much Ways and Means borrowings were? 648 billion. So when Goodluck Jonathan handed over power to Buhari, the total amount of money that the federal government had borrowed from the Central Bank of Nigeria as of June 2015 was 648 billion. 648 billion. That's what maybe customs can clear in 1 quarter or whatever. Now, when Buhari left office, 23 trillion are outstanding. So they printed about 22 or 21 trillion in naira. This was with a CBN and all that, so that was even quote unquote independent with a board. What will happen if you appoint a committee or board that answers to the Ministry of Finance? I mean, this is crazy. This is scary to me. And if that happens, I would advise people just go and hold a different currency. I'll say it right here. Just go and hold a different currency because there's going to be massive borrowing and pressure on the naira. If you want to make the naira strong, you've got to export, but you've also got to spend properly. You've got to spend properly. You simply can't say, we're going to tax our way to paying NLC. It's not going to work. The economy has not expanded. So NLC things are a different matter entirely. I'm not sure where they want to get the money to pay NLC. If you think you're going to tax people that are not having jobs in growth, that do not have a means to create wealth to pay for NLC, it's not going to happen. And I think they know this already. So they are setting the stage to increase spending via allowing the MPR to either stay where it is or to fall. If interest rates go up, MPR, that's the technical argument, has got to go up. Although I will say it's not caused by monetary policy, but still, it's not a good idea. I've got Anon Man Mediating. How you doing? I have to read your name long. You guys have to have shorter Twitter names. How you doing, sir? Please go ahead. Your hand is up. You've got the floor.
Well, good evening, everyone. Well, my opinion is pretty short because I might not be here for too long. So, on the topic, does Nigeria need an independent central bank? We do not. And I say this because the way finance is usually operated in the country, it tends to fall into, should I say, the wrong places every other time that it's meant to be shared or something. So, in knowing that, how then do we even end up with a thought process that says, okay, we are trying to make the central bank, that is our one, should I say, leading financial institution, independent? We can't do that.
But it's already independent. Right now, it's independent. Right now.
It is independent right now?
Yes.
Then it causes a problem. That's what I would just say.
Okay.
It causes a problem.
All right. Appreciate that, sir. I appreciate that. Thanks for hopping in. Yeah. I mean, it's right now, it's independent by law, by statute, and all that. By action, maybe not by action because of what the past central bank governor did. But the proposal now is to make it non-independent, to make, i.e. the monetary policy part. So that means maybe they'll only do exchange rates. Maybe the central bank will only be chasing BDCs and all that, which doesn't make sense to me. But that's where they are going to with these proposals. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, cool. Thanks for hopping in. Appreciate that, sir. All right, I've got McDonald's. What's on your mind? Then I go back to DMs. Let me go back to DMs. McDonald's, you've got the floor. And I'll go back to DMs real quick. McDonald's, yeah, go ahead.
I agree too.
How you doing, sir?
I agree too.
Yeah, go ahead, McDonald's. You got the floor.
Different topic. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I was expecting something different today. Even though from your post during the week, I was expecting rumors flying around anyway, but the topic is still not bad. I don't have much knowledge on the financial sector or business, but I can make one or two contributions. The problem with Nigeria is not really about the independent.
Your audio is cutting in and out, Mr. McDonald. I'm not sure where you are. Your audio is cutting in and out. Not really getting your full audio. Can you fix that audio and come right back? Yes, sir.
I'm using.
No, fix the audio and come right back, sir. Just fix the audio, come right back. Let me get you into it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please go ahead.
I'll switch off the headphone.
Okay, go ahead.
Now, I was trying to say that Nigeria, the problem with us is not really about whether we are dependent or independent, whether the institution is dependent or independent. The problem is we are having problem of leadership, okay? Because even elective positions, quote unquote, are not really independent on as say. You may be on the paper, you may say they are independent, but they are not. Not to talk of talk more of appointed position. Who appoints? Who gives the job? Cardoso, who gave him his job? I mean, let's face the fact here. Sanusi, who gave him the job? Soludo, who gave him the job? All these men are all appointed by the executive man, even though they are the legislator screened them. But I mean, you know what our legislators are, if not rubber stamp. I mean, the whole thing are just in a bunch of circles that you can't understand.
I mean, I hear you.
I mean, if the can you hear me?
Yes.
If we have good leadership, even though they are not dependent or independent, both of them will synerge very well and move the country forward. Let me tell you something. Cardoso himself, that you said he's independent, when he put one policy of whether is it the one on taxing of bank transactions, it was in the news. He said that the Buhari government, Tinubu government has withdrawn the policy. Is it Tinubu government that made the policy, or the Federal or Central Bank that made the policy?
It was Tinubu's government.
I just get confused.
No, it was Tinubu's
government. The policy.
It was Tinubu's government that introduced it, and then they removed it. So it was So it wasn't a CBN policy.
So you can see the confusion here.
No, there's no.
It's not independent.
No, there's no confusion. The bank simply asked banks to implement the circular, but it was not a CBN circular per se. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, good. If the executives are honest to themselves, whether the central bank guy is independent, I mean, they can team up and give us something good that will move this country forward. Like if you go to advanced countries like US, whether they are independent or not independent, I mean, there are other organs that checkmate the excesses of each other. Not really who is independent or who is not independent. See, they are planning here to capture the state.
True.
That's what they are trying to do. They want to I mean, quickly erode the little independence we can see on paper. You understand? They want to gradually erode it so that maybe if something gets to the court, it will be eroded because there's nothing there. You know, because they can see what happened with Emefiele and Buhari, even though nobody wants to prove that aspect. You understand? They want to now gradually remove that clause on paper so that in case tomorrow somebody comes in and sees a whole lot of mess, the person cannot actually indict the executive man because powers was already given to him. You understand? So, in as much as we say that this is not a good move, but the point is that even if they in some countries where they don't have central bank or whatever, you can see that the executives are still doing the thing well, and they are moving. The country is developing. Our country is having a problem. We are struggling with our leadership. That's just our problem here. So you understand?
I hear you. I completely hear you. I hear you. I mean, the point is this: again, we can't do two wrongs to make it right. How's that phrase they use? Emefiele messed up. Yes, we get that, but we can't allow a ministry or an appointee of the federal government to set monetary policy. That's just where I'm going to with this. It'll be worse. Whatever Emefiele did, this is going to be on steroids. You can't allow that because, again, deep inside President Tinubu's Hope campaign promise is a quote that says they are going to decouple the benchmark that connects oil benchmarking and budgets. Now you are saying you want to move the monetary policy rate from the CBN to the ministry. What this is telling me is that somebody who's going to spend a huge amount of money soon and wants cover to do that. So I'm not comfortable with that. Afribull, what's your take? Afribull, you've got the floor, sir. Please go ahead. Chinedu, your hand is up. What's up?
Okay, yeah. Well, this is the thing. I believe that your intention of creating this space is to educate people on what is going to happen to our economy if we allow these people to go ahead with this. And this is a very good move because there's something I've realized from this government. They will just talk about one thing and look at how people react to it. If they find out that people are not really talking about it or they are not reacting negatively, because people can only react properly to things that they understand. Now, there is need for people to know that this is calamity that is brewing. And this government seems not to care. The biggest problem we have with this government is that on the physical side, we don't have economic team. After 1 year in office, they've not given any clear-cut economic policy for us to run with. You see, when we talk about the dollar problems and a whole lot of other things, is lack of trust in this government. I continue to tell people that, see, during the other governments, things were bad, but Nigerians were still kind of trusting the government. People were still bringing in money from the diaspora to invest. But this government, their body language is scaring people away. People are no longer, the diaspora remittance has dropped because people don't trust the system, coupled with the fact that the legitimacy of the government in power currently is questionable. And then you see, all these things are beginning to cause trouble. Inflation has never been this bad in democratic dispensation in Nigeria. And when you see people reporting, I see 33%, 40%, that is not true. When we match it with the price you have at the market, how is tomato moving from 40,000 to 150,000, 40%? That is not true. So the issue is that we have to keep on talking about this and then keep on pushing this government to set up an economic committee. We have the National Economic Council. I've been talking about the fact that if the vice president will continue to head that National Economic Council, then we have to revisit our constitution, make it mandatory that anybody that will be a vice president must be from economic background. So
I think it's just
if not, we take it away entirely from these people and constitute a committee or a council that will handle this thing long term.
I just think it's just for coordination because the VP is like an executive. He just coordinates. Atiku was the first guy there. It's just a coordination thing. Right now, the president has created a presidential economic team which he is managing. Then he created an economic task force which somebody else is managing. He is not there. Then he appointed the powers.
For duplication of duty.
That's what I'm saying. So he then appointed a new committee. He's not there, but that committee's job is to implement the economic plan. That's the EET. So the president came. We already have an economic management team. He created a new presidential advisory committee. Then he created a new task force. He is not the task force, but the task force job is to implement. So what's the monetary team doing? What's the economic team doing? What's this new task force doing? Why do you have a task force? Duplication is just to say we are doing work. It's just to say, hey, we are doing something. We're not really doing anything. I don't think it matters if you're an economist. As a VP, he has access to resources. He can coordinate. He has presidential power, so he can tell, hey, SEC, do this. Hey, Ministry of Ports, do this. That's the reason why he's there. But the president, in my view, should be the head of the economic team, not the VP. Both of them can be there. If you're not doing economy, what are you doing? What else are you doing if you're not doing economy? Your job is the economy as the president. What else now? All right, let me get mayor of Ramallah? Are we mayor of Rafia City? Isn't that in the Middle East? Mayor, are you from Nigeria? Mayor of Rafia City. Afribull, we'll come back to you, sir. Can you speak now, sir? Afribull? Afribull going once, Afribull going twice. Victor, your hand is up. What's your mind, sir? Victor?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Victor, hold on. I think I got Afribull on the floor. Victor, Afribull, can you speak?
Fine.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Just a quick comment, because I think his name was Donald or McDonald, I can't remember, on the gray lines between the CBN governor and the executive. And he made some good points. And at the end of the day, the CBN governor is appointed by the executive team. And that in Nigeria definitely is, the lines are blurred. But even if we're to accommodate for that, it's still important to keep, if not the appearance, when you're looking at considering foreign investments and market perception of Nigeria. Because it has to be seen, generally speaking, we don't have it in Nigeria. You have this stability and long-term economic planning, and central bank is very important to that goal. And but if we are looking at just keeping it at least on paper legally, and giving hope that things can get better, things can change for the future regarding economic planning, central bank policy, that you can have long-term central bank policy that is going towards a goal. It's still important to, even if the lines are blurred in Nigeria, it's still important to keep it that way. Because once we cross that line,
Sure.
as you've put, I don't think it won't be something we can walk back very easily.
True. Yeah.
So I just wanted to mention that point.
I mean, it's a great point. I know it's a great point. I'm just worried about once you do this at the federal level, you know what's going to happen at the state then? So the governor will simply say, oh, in that case, he's the accountant general. The governor will just make himself accountant general. So all FAC will come to governor's office. Then governor will spend FAC and governor will audit FAC. Because if you've killed the checks and balances, separation of powers that involve fiscal spending, that's also what you want to do. Why should the ministry be the one to set monetary policy in an economy? I mean, why do we have central banks in the first place? Why not just scrap central bank and make Ministry of Banking and then appoint a minister as minister of the bank or whatever? Why do we have a central bank? That's duplication. Their core job is monetary policy, and once the politicians start to go there, then you don't want to know what's going to happen. 4 years, these guys are there for 4 years, maybe 8. So if you say you are going to give them the power to spend for 4 years, of course they're going to spend 100 years in 4 years to win an election. They don't care the next 8 years, they are gone. Somebody else is going to sort the mess out. Buhari's printed 23 trillion, he's gone, he's in Daura. His mess is now being cleaned up by a new president because he had the power to spend. Mefele really let him spend. Go ahead, sir.
No, I just added to it, but you effectively eradicate any long-term economic planning.
True.
Because you have a 4-year cycle. They have no interest in building an economy long-term. There's no incentive to build the economy long-term. You make it. You give yourself the best case scenario. You're basically making money available. That's what politicians need. They will spend as much as the law allows them. They already done that when they broke the law to do that in Buhari's administration.
And nothing has happened. Yeah.
No consequence. So now you make it law. You even make it. You say 3x revenue or whatever that's going to be confirmed. The sky's the limit for them. And they won't pay. The Nigerian public will pay.
After that's the most dangerous part for me. Even the monetary policy one, you can sleep and wake up with that. But that 3x is for me more dangerous. To say that a Nigerian federal government can borrow, is it 10% of 3x? That's dangerous. So if we raise 2 trillion, they can borrow 600, just like that, just by a stroke of a pen. They just borrow that money. No repayment, no stability, no ability to pay guidelines, nothing. It's and people are, maybe we're speaking.
If you're going by just historically, there's no reason why they would stand by that 3x. Why not 5x? And the bigger issue, even if you were to say, let's try it, because the independence that we have hasn't worked.
Yeah.
We know we can infer what will likely happen. And once the politicians realize, okay, this is very bad, it's too late.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not something that can be. It can't. This is not like you can't walk it back. What happened with the 21 trillion and then repackaging as a bond that will be paid and interest rates? That is the best case scenario from what has happened. That's not going to happen again. We can't do it twice.
The point is that,
we're paying for that right now.
The 40 billion. You see how much have we now raised in special bonds to cover Emefiele's printing? It's there. You and I, anyone holding a naira is going to pay that back. Emefiele is not going to pay back a kobo. No matter the nonsense they say in court, it's not going to pay back a kobo. Buhari is not going to pay back a kobo. DMI, the guys that should oversee Spend Nigeria are not going to pay back a kobo. It is the Nigerian population that's going to pay back those bonds with those high interest rates. I was trying to pull up the federal government budget report to show how much we were paying per quarter on loans to the Central Bank of Nigeria. The last time I looked, it was nearly 1 trillion that the Nigerian Federation was paying to the Central Bank of Nigeria for open obligations, i.e. before they pass those bonds. 1 trillion a quarter. How much is ASU asking for? So the country is just upside down. You just borrow, print money, and then you leave. You're no longer the president, and we pick up the tab. So people have to pay attention. I don't know how to make it sound very, very simple for people to understand. The naira you hold in your hand only has got value because it has reserves or it has productivity backing it. If you allow a government official to print at will without that naira being backed up by productivity or revenues or growth, it will become worthless. So all your savings, stock market, bonds, everything will become worthless because a few politicians want to buy imported SUVs. It's as simple as that. We're screaming it now. We screamed about this ways and means in 2022. No one listened. This, I hope, does not happen. I know sometimes when you make a lot of noise, the presidency seems to hear and they seem to review before they take action. I hope this is one time where they will pull back and say, we can't do this. We need to know what's happening before they allow the naira to just become worthless. This would make the spending go through the roof, especially when we're not getting monies coming in as well. Just my take on that. Appreciate that, Afribro. Appreciate that. Thanks. I haven't seen you in a while, sir. Thanks for hopping in again this evening. Yeah, Victor, you are going to say something, Victor?
Yeah, thank you. For me, I think the economic team, if I might say, I think they are working hard. They are working through round the clock, and it's just unfortunately they have an impossible job. The CBN governor, with his intervention and all that, we saw how that affected the currency vis-a-vis exchange rate, but it was just short-lived because at the crux of the matter, we have a spending problem, we have a revenue problem. We're spending more than we're earning, and we're not earning enough.
True.
That's just the crux of the matter. So I think this whole idea of handing over the independence of the CBN to the finance minister is just another fishing. Okay, let's try it. The CBN governor has tried. Let's try this and see if it will work. But if we don't address the root cause of the matter, how much we spend and our ability to earn vis-a-vis crude oil theft, vis-a-vis insecurity, farmers can't farm, it's just band-aid to the problem. And 2 weeks from now or 3 months from now, there'll also be another brilliant, quote and unquote, idea being floated of how to improve Nigeria's liquidity. Yeah. So I think that's just the crux of the matter, if you ask me.
Like Afribul is saying, why stop at 3 times? If they pass this in and it goes through, why can't they come next year and say 50% of 10 years revenues? What stops them from doing that? So it's essentially you then have a Ministry of Finance that has the ability to print whatever it likes. Then why would you hold Naira? Why would any sane person hold Naira when it can be printed? What was Idi Amin doing? What was the Germans after World War? What were they doing? Why would you hold naira if someone can just print it? No guardrails. Well, we're skating on very, very thin ice, and I don't think they understand the import of what they are saying. Just the news alone is bad. To even discuss this is bad. And if you keep quiet, these guys will pass this thing. It's only when you put pressure and you explain to people what they want to do, they even step back. If you keep quiet, they'll pass this nonsense. No information, sir. What's your take on this? No information provided by the developer. Does it have to be that long? How you doing?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Kalu.
What's happening, bro?
So, I'm okay. Just a good day for me. So, on this particular issue, I just want to ask a question. Besides that, it's totally insane from the principal perspective. Central banks should be independent. We've been in a situation since last year where only the central bank has been doing anything substantial to help with the economic, the inflation and everything. They've used almost every tool they can in their standard central bank toolkit. And the fiscal side has not come through with any policy, any move that makes any sense and helps at all. So who in their right mind thinks it's a good idea to now hand over this control to the fiscal side? It's as if the Minister of Finance is on holiday in Nigeria right now. We are not seeing his impact in the economy. We are not. He could just go on holiday and want to hand that over to the Minister of Finance. It just doesn't make sense.
You mean the coordinating Minister of the Economy? I don't see him. I don't hear from him. I don't feel his impact. I see the CBN guy trying to make an impact. The Minister of Finance guy, I see him in World Bank, IMF, photo ops. I've not seen him take action. He controls the customs. Lots of allegations of corruptions against the customs. I haven't seen him say anything there. He controls this nonsense that are charging 1,400, 1,500 as exchange duty for the Nigerian customs. I don't see him intervening there. He seems to be lost and doesn't know what he's doing. He's a guy that knows. He's been in the Lagos financial scene for millennia. He knows where the bones are buried. He knows what to do. So why is he not doing anything? The reason why we're celebrating was because he said this is a guy that understands the Nigerian financial sector. He can go abroad, make the case to the foreign investors and say, listen, Nigeria is going to change. This is what those who are passing. Let's get FDI in here. But it's the CBN that seems to be the driving seat of all this. What has he done? What is he doing? That's the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister. What's he coordinating?
Mr. Kalu, I'll just say this last, that if this passes, I will liquidate all my investments, all my Naira holdings to just the minimum I need to survive. I'll go hold the CFA franc and the dollar and find my way out of this country.
Well, that's your take on the matter. Olumide, how you doing, sir? Welcome, Olumide. What's happening? Been a while.
Well, it's been a while. It's been a very interesting conversation.
Yeah, Olumide, can you hit your audio up just a bit?
Okay. Can you hear me very well?
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so I said interesting conversation. I just wanted to bring some unique dimension to it. So first of all, I do not understand why they brought up that excuse. And surprisingly, if you look at the banking committee, the Senate is headed by a former bank MD that has deep experience. So I tried to look at the excuse and reports. Actually, it wasn't as amplified as we even brought it, but it still didn't make a lot of sense to me because if you look at the board of the CBN, we have the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Finance, we have the SEC, we have other fiscal side, even on that tip. So one begins to wonder were they looking like the American context of the Economic Council? And also, you look at the problem we are having, the fact that there's no clear-cut policy, just like I listened to those speakers and what you said. The truth of the matter is that till we speak, it's very difficult for me to explain to you what Wale Edo's economic policy for the past 1 year is, and that is very, very bad. So while Cardoso has shown that he's looking at fighting inflation, we just saw a report from IATA that said that Nigeria has cleared the FX obligations to foreign airlines, which moved us from top debtors list. But when you look at our deficit, when you look at government spending, it's still reckless. And the argument has always been lack of inconsistency. So I personally feel that the CBN, an independent CBN, is very, very necessary.
True.
Despite the errors of Emefiele, despite the fightings within Science area, I still tell everybody that wants to listen that the CBN is still the most functional department in the whole government since I've been covering finance space. And that's why oftentimes I try to let people understand that, see, we need to encourage these guys, even if they have issues, because if that institution gets it wrong, we are all in serious trouble. Because look at what the fiscal side is doing. We can't really pinpoint what is really happening. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Lumide. I mean, that's a good point you're raising. That good point. Good point. Olumide, let me read a few DMs for you. Maybe Olumide, Afribulika, let me read a few DMs for you. Someone says, "What happens to the Eurobond investment?" I have some exposure to Eurobond. So, my own take, the Eurobond is directly linked to dollar earnings because we are borrowing in dollars and we're paying back in dollars. We don't print dollars. So the point is that your Eurobonds have a direct correlation to the NNPC oil output. You should start to get worried with Eurobonds. We should be worried now if the oil output does not increase. Right now, the CBN has borrowed about $1 billion, right, to float to defend the Naira. We are going to pay back next year $1 billion in principal to the Eurobond. This is minus our usual dollar borrowings, dollar exposure that we have. So I would say for now, the Eurobonds may be safe because it's the dollar exposure. But the overall issue with Nigeria is the liquidity that is not coming in. We are not getting as much liquidity in dollars that we should have loved. If you compare remittances in the past to today, it's down. If you compare oil sales in the past to today, it's down. If you compare FDI to the past till today, it's down. So those three big headers are all suffering. FPI's foreign portfolio investment has gone up, but it has gone up because we are borrowing at 20%, very, very high interest rate. So net, we will get the dollars in, but at what cost? So for Eurobonds, I would say for now, you might be safe. They will prioritize Eurobonds before they prioritize Nigerian bonds. That's just the truth. They will do that. So if you are there, I think you're kind of safe. Olumide, do you agree? Do you have a counter view?
Yeah, I think I have, because my major concern is the minimum wage. If they pass anything above 250, our sovereign risk will be high, because just like you said, look at the amount of revenue that comes in. If you look at CBN data, 90% went to debt servicing. Most of our FX outputs went for debt servicing. And, we are in a country where productivity is not really rising. So, wage inflation, looking at food inflation still at that level coming to play, I don't think it's that safe. And that's why I'm really very angry with the way the fiscal side, particularly the presidency, has handled the optics of showing Nigeria the country is broke. A lot of people don't believe that. When you tell people that Nigeria is broke, they say senators are earning 6 figures.
That's true.
Rights. And, it makes it just like you said, because where is this money coming from? Nigeria's oil output, look at OPEC just released PEG for 2024, 1.5. We've not even hit 90% of that number. Saudi is going to 910, despite the fact that they are trimming costs. So the question is, where do we want to get those dollars from? So I think sovereign risk will get high if the federal government does not show fiscal discipline, despite the fact that you could say, payments are in there, because that amount of civil service force getting that amount of money, I don't see the miracle when your pay is your revenue is stagnant. That's my own personal. And I think for FPIs, I think FPIs are cooling. And the reason why it looks like it's interesting for Nigeria is that Ghana paused to it. Egyptians are also looking at being less aggressive. So Nigeria still has the pattern. But the reality is that with raising risk, I don't see. Caruso can't keep doing 150. The risk sector is already suffering a lot. You can see that impairment. Look at what's happening in First Bank. Forget that it's 40 billion. Look at the amount of impairment in First Bank. You know, a lot of people are not talking about all these things. So some banks are surviving because of forbearance and, you know, CBN's forbearance. So we also need to look at the true state of the economy. We cannot afford to live a good life. Let's face the reality. We need to cut costs. And that's why I'm really against the way the government is taking it in that part.
Gotcha. And the second point someone's asking about, just again, before you go ahead, NLC is asking for 400,000. You are saying 200,000 is red flag for you. Where is the money even for 100,000? I don't see where the government of today gets money from. The subsidy removal, the removal subsidy created revenues for the government. I assume that was the revenue they were going to use to pay this new salary increase. But the money for the first year was kept in a special fund for infrastructure. Currently, as we stand right now, about, is it 40 or 50% of the total revenues of the federal government goes to pay salaries alone. This is not pensions. This is just salaries alone of only civil service workers. If you add pensions, service-wide votes, allowances, you are looking anywhere from 60%. Now, I have not talked about debt repayment on this revenue, on these recurrent revenues. If you add debt repayment, it's more than 100%, which means that when Nigeria sells crude oil, our total revenues is not enough to pay debt, pay subsidy, and pay salary. It's not enough. Then we're increasing the salaries, not by a little, by a much, nearly doubling it. Where is the money going to come from? Even if we increase VAT by 50%, where is this extra new money going to come from to pay NLC? Do you have any idea?
Actually, I think it's worse than Buhari's time, because if you look at the real cost of a liter of petrol now, and you speak to different owners, they tell you that it's between 1.1 and 1.2. And if you look at the price a liter of petrol, it means the government subsidized by almost 400. Now, the question is, where is that money? So we're not really saving money, Kalu. Then also look at the Naira, the FX market, for example. Look at export earnings. The liquidity we are talking about is unstable. The Naira cannot be moving like a meme coin, for everyone's sake. The gap of 100 Naira within 2-3 days is sustainable for importers and those that have business exposure. They are seeing it hit hard on major companies. And you know, the fact that also we are seeing exodus of foreign multinationals because of raw materials, cost of doing business, and insecurity, that also scatters. So I think for me, you know, like it's the solutions are simple. The government just wants to be sincere. First of all, we need to trim the number of aides by this 50 ministers that are used to fiscal responsibility. Let's be honest with ourselves.
50 ministers.
Need to look at how they performed in the past 1 year. So far, we cannot mention more than 5 ministers. And even those 5 ministers are just slightly above average. The food inflation rate has really depleted many Nigerian savings. So just like you said, Khalid, where do we, except we want to add 2 zeros to our money, that's the only solution we have. So it's just going to be numeric.
It's 4.9 trillion. That i.e., if you take what Labour is asking for, they're asking for 4.9 trillion in addition. 4.9 trillion. I mean, I know the federal government is the spendthrift. I get that. But for crying out loud, where are we going to get 4.9 trillion from? I mean, we've not grown the economy. That's the situation we find ourselves. We've not grown the economy. We've relied on FPIs instead of FDIs. We are an importing nation that cannot pay for its imports. We're importing PMS. essentially where our education and health is being exported out through invisible trade. That's where we found ourselves now. And now this same economy that imports everything is supposed to generate brand new 4.9 trillion just to pay workers. So this is just government workers. This is not private sector workers. How many SMEs can pay for? Just think about it. If you're an SME guy today, think about yourself. You are a guy that you make soup or you make popcorn. You're an SME company. The government is saying, or the NLC is saying, that you should pay your worker 494,000 naira a month. How much do you, the owner of the business, make? This you as a SME. So it's a joke. And the sad thing is that the NLC is right that the salaries have to go up. But they're making a false argument. There is no way in hell Nigeria is going to pay anybody 494,000. We just can't afford it. But the NLC is correct. Salaries have got to go up. So in between that, these two things, there's a conversation around how can we reduce the size of the government and increase the wealth creation capacity of Nigerians. Because I don't see how they're going to get out of this. Anything they announce as wage increase is going to crash the economy real quick. Only they hang in there as usual. I do appreciate your comments. Adeleke Benro, you've got the floor, sir. Go ahead.
All right, Carlo, thank you very much. I must say that the space has been very interesting and educative, and seems a lot of you guys have been speaking has a lot of background in finance and economics. So, but for me, what I want to ask, and I'd like to be educated, to see how we can have real solutions to this. I want to say that have we taken into consideration how most times government agencies, somebody talking about a lot of corruption in customs. Have you taken time? Has anybody done any serious studies on how government mismanage funds and how a lot of these funds are actually stolen, at some of these government agencies? At the time, I was previewed to do an investigation. And I found out that about 85% of the money that was supposed to be government revenue was taken from the point, that this money was coming in by individuals that work in government agencies. So how can you actually come up with data to say, okay, this is how much we work? I believe we are working with data that government is making available to us. How real are these data? How real are these things? When you have a crop of people taking a larger chunk of this money, from the very source. And that's why I believe we have not been able to address, or we are saying we don't have capacity to do a lot of things. So I'm just trying to say that, how do you even look at government procurement? If you want to buy a laptop of a particular range that the average price is, let's say, 200,000 naira, government will procure that same laptop for about 2 million naira. Who looks into all these things to actually see how wealthy a nation is, to actually see how much money you are making? I don't know too much of economics, but I work in government. But these are the realities. These are what I see in government office. I see in government parastatals, and for other colleagues, people that work this is the same. It is almost similar story where you have people take it as government ever make public how they do their procurement processes. I tell you that, okay, this is what we procure over the year. Where people make procurement, and their procurement is able to even buy if they tell you what they use in making, doing procurement in a year, you will be shocked. So I don't know how, I'm just saying that I don't know how much and how far this affects all this minimum wage thing and what we earn. What we have in a, how will I put this now? To say this is actually what we have as a country. This is our reserve. This is how much we make as a country. I just want you guys to please educate me on that, because I work for the government.
Yeah.
And this is what I see that happens in the government setting all the time.
Adeleke, I think you know the answer already. Why do you think we have a due process? We have a bureau of public procurement, and we have Madam Due Process. When all those things were occurring before, in the past it was a circus. We tried to clean it up by saying there's a due process. This is how you bid. This is how you win. This is how you advertise for public tender. I don't think those things are working. It's a very, very easy way you can fix this. And you're right. The government expenditures are expensive, costly, and are fraught with corruption. The way you can win this is to say, let the government publish what it wants to buy. We want to buy Hiace buses. And simply say, if you can give us a way to reduce this cost by 10%, we'll give you 1% of the savings as cash. Just publish it on the website and say, this is what the government wants to spend. Anyone that can show us how we can reduce this spending by 10%, we will give you 1% of the savings. And you will see people will give you lots of ideas. But it's all, should we say, it's all on purpose. Like, this is corruption. People want to buy a Hiace bus. The bus costs more by when the government buys it than when you walk into the parking lot to buy. You want to buy books. Why not buy in bulk? They don't. They go and buy a house from a suya seller. And I'm being serious here. We see suya sellers are getting contracts to supply things to the government. A restaurant gets a contract to supply government goods. The press calls out the restaurant. The press guy is arrested, jailed for calling out a restaurant attached to a very, very high person in government has been allowed to bid for government contracts. So it's a mess, and you can fix it. It has to start from the top. If the top is clean, everybody takes direction. When was due process set up? Why isn't it still there? Why don't we hear of due process anymore? Why are we buying jeeps and cars all over the place when we've said we want to use local? Last speech we had, we talked about the local purchasing. The law in Nigeria says you cannot buy foreign cars, and that if you buy foreign cars for the government, you should go to jail. It's in the law. I didn't say so. It's in the law, local content law. It's in the Executive Order 003, passed by the President of Nigeria. It's there, but still, what cars is Customs buying? Imported Toyotas. I don't think your hand is up. Go ahead.
So thank you very much, for saying this. That is part of that's one of the major problems. So most times, most of the data the analysts are working with, those data are not accurate. They can't even tell you what an average Nigerian should earn. Like now, if you look at the way Nigeria is, purchasing power has been taken completely away from the people. And of course, the purchasing power of the people, I believe, also have a way of affecting the economy, of growing the economy. Even if you are saying the small, medium-scale business person should run a business, somebody should have at least, as it is now, they don't even have the purchasing power, to even buy whatever service, that is going to be rendered. So that's the biggest problem, that the data and things we are working with are most times not accurate. I gave you a very powerful example. I did an investigation, and I found out that 85%, I was shocked, 85% of what was being made, from the source had been taken. And this is not the one that will still go into the account, and some people will still, through some fraudulent means, take away from. This is why I believe that, I don't know whether we have a true answer to this, except we are willing to fight corruption.
Not really. The laws, just for you go, the laws say that when you spend money, you must, I think now, is it 50% that you must remit automatically to the federal government once you spend money? But they haven't done that. They're trying to say that once you are a government-owned enterprise or MDA, you must remit a certain percentage by default automatic to a federation account. How many MDAs are doing that? That's the point. That's where we are right now. So if they don't get revenues from the MDAs, then they have no money. They have to go back and borrow. And then when they are borrowing, it's crowding out the private sector. So interest rates are already high. They are crowding out the private sector, and they want the same private sector to pay minimum wage of $494,000. Then in addition to that, they want to now set interest rates from the Ministry of Finance and also give Ministry of Finance the power to allow them to borrow. So you can see what's going on. They know they're not going to get the money through taxes. So they want to get the money through printing. They're going to just print the money and say, we're borrowing based off last year's revenue. Revenues are going to keep on inflating because of inflation. So they borrow 1 naira today. Inflation takes that 1 naira to 1 naira 30 kobo. They borrow on 1 naira 30 kobo. Inflation takes it to 1 naira 60 kobo. They borrow on 1 naira 60 kobo. No wealth is being created. Just borrowing on inflated base figures to then spend on the same non-stimulative activities, buying private jet fuel, buying cars for legislators. So the economy the structure is completely off entirely. And if you don't fix the structure nothing good is going to happen to the economy. The economy structure is fundamentally flawed. Ken, what's on your mind? Ken Uti.
Wow, thank you, Carl. It's been a while. I hope you're good.
I am, sir. Thanks for asking.
Everyone has spoken well. Well, I'm not surprised with what is happening in the country because they said they were going to continue from where the other government stopped, and they are doing exactly that with regards to the monetary side. I mean, I can't even imagine. I'm surprised that we are even having this discussion of why we should have an independent CBN. I don't even understand it. Why? Who came up with that idea to allow the Federal Ministry of Finance to determine what see? It's unbelievable. I've been reading some of the tweets from Olumide over during the week, and I see where this is heading. Obviously, we know when you don't have that balance between the fiscal and the monetary side, we know what will continue to happen to the currency, and it's going to be the spiraling effect. It will continue to boomerang on the pockets of the people, and poverty would only continue to deepen. The discussion about the minimum wage, to be honest, let's just trace it back, because the truth of the matter is that there is so much injustice in Nigeria, so much injustice, and the people who are supposed to ensure that there's justice just look away. The first act that they carried out when they came into government was to sign a supplementary budget, 2 trillion, to buy vehicles, to pay themselves as welcome allowance. That was the first thing they did. And then the next thing, we heard that the salaries of judges, not everybody working in the Ministry of Justice, just the judges, their salaries were increased without any rancor. They didn't request for it. It was just increased like that, no rancor. And if we are going to be on the side of justice in terms of our minimum wage today, Carlo, our minimum wage should be around 280,000 naira. That's what it should be. Let's say we want to maintain where they picked the economy from, 30,000. 150 something exchange rate. If you convert that today to the rate we have today, the black market or rate, or you want to use the NAFEM rate, we should be in that range, 280. Another data that supports that figure is using Egypt as an example. Egypt is a country that is kind of similar to us in size, in terms of some of the problems we are having. They are facing the same kind of problems in terms of FX and all that, though they are in a better situation compared to us. But if you look at their minimum wage, they just increased their minimum wage in March by 50%. And in dollar terms, that is coming to around $194. So if you do $194 today, it will land you around 290,000. So a true, I would say, minimum wage today for the lowest worker in Nigeria should be around 280,000. But we know the government cannot do that. But knowing fully well that this government cannot do that, the first thing they should do coming into government, if they know they are serious with the fiscal side, is to announce cuts to their salaries and allowances first. That should be the first thing. Kenya did it. Ghana did it. These countries, they did the same thing first. Announce it. What that does is that the signal is sent to the private sector is that, we are a serious government. It sends the right message to the union leaders that, okay, when we want to ask for minimum wage, we ask for something reasonable. The reason why these guys are asking for 460 something today is they know that their landing figure, where they want to get to, should be between 250 and 280. That is where they are targeting. But of course, going into the negotiation, you can't reveal all your cards in terms of what you want to do. And to be honest, yes, they said it's going to ground the economy, but we need to put justice on the table. The government needs to put justice on the table when carrying out this kind of negotiations. And I mean, what would 60,000 naira do to?
I mean, Ken, there is no way the minimum wage in Nigeria is going to be 200,000 naira. we are being honest here. No one's going to pay
Yes,
that.
I agree with
Because
you.
forget
100%
government.
I agree.
Even 100,000. Forget government.
I agree.
Which
with you.
SME on who is an SME on this space that would pay his? No, that's even your house girl is going to earn 100K.
I agree with you 100%.
So just look at it that way. When you bring it to your house girl level, it has to make sense to you. And it's because labor in Nigeria is cheap and unproductive. So I get that. I'm talking in economic terms now. What needs to happen is not a minimum wage increase for now. What needs to happen is that the NLC and the government have got to pass an austerity budget.
Very fantastic.
What we're doing now is that your son tells you, Daddy, I need my school, I want my allowance to become 10,000 naira a month. Your son is maybe 10 years old. He wants 10,000 allowance. You say, okay, you want to go and borrow to give your son 10,000. That's a wrong approach. What we need to do is to do an austerity budget. All spending in Nigeria for the next maybe 12 or 24 months, not tied to human capital. So if it's not health, education, or anything tied to human capital, you suspend it. Roads are good. Roads are stimulative. Roads are investments, but you suspend any new project today. When you suspend it, no import of cars for the government, no useless spending. Once you do that, what have you saved? You take that savings, you use that savings to fund free services for the government, people, and for the Nigerians. So you say, if you go to school, we'll give you a voucher. So you take away school fees from the bills of Nigerians. If you go to school, go and bring your past year's receipt, we'll pay. When you are able to take away education, maybe even rent, bring your rent, we'll give you a rent subsidy. If you remove those costs from Nigerians and you have an austerity budget, then you focus on growing the economy. If you can grow the economy, then you can talk in 24 months about minimum wage. For now, we're deceiving ourselves. If you make minimum wage more than even 40K, nobody is going to pay that money. It will be there on paper. Nobody will pay it.
I agree 100%. That should have been the first step. It's not too late. They can still do it. They can still go in that austere direction. But we know the lavish spenders.
I saw the convoy of the president. Each car there is worth how many million naira? About 400 million.
200 and something million.
This is the convoy of the president, right? I mean, yes, I get it has to be secured, it's protected. But look at the convoy of the president. They are telling workers you don't have money. Look at the convoy of the lawmakers. Everyone is spending money. You can't tell workers you don't have money. That's where the government has got it wrong.
I just wanted to add. Look at the convoy of the speaker, for example. You cannot compare Macron, the president of the eighth largest economy, with the speaker of Nigeria.
Okay.
And I've done. You see, another thing again is that we are not rewarding efficiency. I was look at the stock market, for example. We have guys. Tori is not used. Ineka, she's not used. Agbede is not used. These are captains of industry. Yemi, Edun, she's not used. Just the stock market that have shown their onions that can run efficient business. Create an economic council. Try and start with the real sector. How can we pump efficiency into the sector? Reward people that are successful. UBA employed 10,000 employees. They had to reduce. GT has 3,000 employees. GT has room to increase. Why have they not increased? Because the economy, they are looking at more investment banking, despite the fact that they made more than 500 billion naira in a quarter. So these are questions we need to ask ourselves. And you cannot blame any of these successful companies because they are edging against the of the Nigerian economy. Before I drop the mic, I feel like, the solutions are straight cut. We have successful people that know how to run businesses. Look at Piggyvest, look at Paystack. These are examples of fintech companies that have attracted goodwill from foreign investors and within. Why are we not making good use of these guys? We don't see working. If you go to the French Republic, there's what we call the tech hub ticket, where brilliant entrepreneurs from different French-speaking countries giving exposure to show their talent. United States has increased. Germany just recently opened opportunity card for people that have skills to come in. And it's getting worse because you look at the middle class in Nigeria, it's shrinking. Kalu, if you look at
there's no middle class
last year, I was telling somebody that don't think we'll get that 23, 22. It's very unlikely because wage inflation is in Canada, it's eating in Europe, inflation generally, and it has eaten into many immigrants' income. And also the way our FX market has gone in Africa this year, it's been horrible. That's why from Ghana to Nigeria to South Africa, to the southern part of Africa, there's attack on street trading. So I think primarily in simple context, for us to run an efficient economy, we need to realize that a smaller government that can focus on real successful business people, all those costs you're talking about, is the whole solution. Then we only have politicians that wear Richard Mille and live on sushi business class trips.
Olunde, the point is that we're not generating wealth in the economy. That's just the long and short of it. If the economy is generating wealth, you can increase minimum wage, you can spend. Nigeria is spending like a billionaire, but we're a gates man. We are spending ₦1 trillion, but we don't have money. There is no money. Look at the budget. All the money you make from oil, let me say it so slowly. All the money you make from crude oil in Nigeria goes to pay salaries, allowances, and service-wide votes of only civil servants. The total money from oil and gas in Nigeria is going to pay salaries, allowances, and service-wide votes of only civil servants. This is not a rich country. We are poor because we have failed to generate wealth down the line. I was trying to add Eniola. He keeps dropping off. Eniola, please, just request. Trying to add you, keep falling off.
Yeah, just to wrap up, I think finally, the media and the populists also need to face that problem. We have a number of problems, and I have become very aggressive on that. A lot of Nigerians do believe that we are poor. Sometimes you look at the revenue of medium companies around the world. Lego, for example, that makes toys, makes more money than Nigeria's NNPC 4 times. I was telling people today that YouTube had a total revenue in 2023 of over 31 billion. Nigeria's federal government budget is less than 25 billion. And we are a country of 200 million. Why do we like hyping ourselves? Because you see, the problem is that we hyped ourselves so much that this fake life has really affected so many things. So we don't really know the reality. The problem is that we were coming from a world of fakeness when the Naira was subsidized at immense level. So a lot of things now is coming to shape, and people don't really want to realize that, man, we can't really afford. And that's why I think we should take the Chinese approach. Let us stop cutting corners. We need to pump up production. The new sector, agriculture, basic education, trade, logistics.
True. There are too many big men that are not creating wealth in Nigeria. Too many big men that are living up the federal government, not creating a kobo of wealth. Too many. Everybody's special advisor on this special. It's just a waste. Just so much waste. 2 private jets from Nigeria and Europe, they are bad. President private jet went is bad. 50 private jet went is bad. Why does Nigeria need 2 or 3 or 4 private jets? Why? Why must we import cars for customs? Why? When you make cars locally. Wrong decisions everywhere. Money is being spent and blown. You don't see it. Say we've passed monthly FAQ. Where is the money? Can you go to your state and that state can say it has received 400 billion? Where is the money? It's crazy. Joe, save us a bit. Joe O'Day, what's up? Joe, can I call you Joseph? Joseph O'Day, what's up, sir? You've got the floor. Mr. McDonald, please go ahead. Your hand is up. Yeah.
Carlo, I beg you. Why I came up again? I see you playing the devil's advocate here for the government, and I don't like it. See, you cannot tell me federal government cannot pay or cannot increase minimum wage.
They can't.
And they are increasing their own salaries.
Their salaries are cheaper. See, Oga.
They are spending frivolously. Now, let me come here. Huh? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead. Make your point.
Now, Carlo, it's okay. I can understand Tinubu's issues. He inherited a problem. But even everybody in this country knew prior to 2023 election that whoever takes over from Buhari is going to inherit this enormous problem.
Yeah, good point.
Is he trying to tell me that he wasn't prepared for it?
Good point.
Now,
good point.
Why are we still below OPEC quota? Carlo, what is happening to our oil production? Do you know about the oil theft? Do you know about the rate of do you know that the amount of bunkering that's going out of this illegal export of crude oil is higher than the one that they are accounting for? PPRA or whatever they call it in DPR. Who tells us the metering of export of crude? Do you know that the record they give you is not record of what we export? The point I'm trying to make here is, if Tinubu wants to succeed, if Tinubu is honest to himself, Tinubu hasn't gotten the right people around him. Let me tell you, I think he just appointed people based on compensating them that helped him to get into that office. If Tinubu means business, he should get the right people here for him to get this thing done. Because, see, this country is a very rich country. I'll tell you for a fact, because I'm a geologist, all right? Do you know the amount of solid minerals deposited in Nigeria?
No, Mark, honestly, I hear you.
I'm coming. If Tinubu is interested, he should mop up revenue. Do you know the amount of gold they are selling out of this country and nobody's accounting for it? And he keeps a blind eye to it because I think he's even suffering from legitimacy, because there are some people he cannot fight because he has a problem with them, because they can tell you about we know how you came in here. You cannot come and tell us, you cannot come and stand in our business. This is the problem Tinubu has here. But if Tinubu can muzzle up himself, we can generate this money in this country. We are losing a lot of money here to criminals. Even in the high sea, if you know how much is going out of this country illegally, you will shed tears. Revenue is very high. It's possible. It's possible to generate this high revenue in this country by our natural resources Nigeria has.
You know, come on, no, let's use.
Let nobody defend them.
Mark, let's use football analogy.
Let me round up this way. I like what NLC is doing. This demand from NLC is like what I call opposition tactics, putting them on the hotspot, putting them on the hot seat, making them sit up. Because if NLC go and relax, say, okay, Nigeria doesn't have money, they are weak, they cannot afford it, just okay, we are giving us the 60,000, Tinubu and Co will not think out of the box. So they should give them this 400,000. They should press on this. They should go on this strike tomorrow, so that the Tinubu can sit up in this thing. Man, they are too relaxed. He got bunch of fools around himself, and they're not doing anything. They're not delivering. How can we have solid minerals and no money?
Mark, chill out. Let's just get back on track. The point I'm making is this: if you read more, I'm telling you, I agree that with the NLC that wages have to go up. What I'm telling you is that the reality is that they can't go up. Let's use football analogy. Chelsea has got very, very good players. At a certain point in the season, Chelsea's players were injured. They were not playing. So the potential for Chelsea to win Champions League is there, but there's no money. We have not invested in this economy called Nigeria. We have not. We haven't grown our oil output. Whether it's Buhari's fault or Tinubu's fault, we have not invested in Nigeria, and we are paying the price today. There is no way. I'm giving you, it's not an argument. There is no way this government today can pay even more than 60,000 or 100,000 as minimum wage. It's not possible. Look at you, to take yourself. What they are asking you to do is that your worker, your driver, your minimum you pay your driver is 100,000. What do you earn? What do you earn from your own personal business or the government? I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just giving reality. And it's the government's job to create the conditions for wealth. I get that. But we have to think outside the box. We can't say, we're not children. You give me my toy or I'll do a tantrum. That's what NLC is doing. Where were they when all these laws were being passed or that increased taxes? Did they come out and complain? When VAT went up, did they come out and complain? When this telecom electronic fee came out, did they come out and complain? All those things are sapping the disposable income of Nigerians. And if you don't have disposable income, where do you now start to tax? If you've taken disposable income through levies and fees, where are you going to tax to raise this minimum wage? Minimum wage is tax, so you are the one paying the minimum wage, not government. Tinubu is not paying minimum wage. You are the one paying the minimum wage. It's you that are going to tax to pay $494. So federal workers would enjoy. What about workers in Katsina and Abia State? How will they get $400,000 to pay? So a maid in Abia State to earn 400,000 naira. It's not possible. And the reality is that we have got to say what is realistic so we can give the best approaches. 444 will mean that everybody is sacked. Listen, in California, this is California, richest state maybe in America. Maybe if California was a country to be among the top 10 in terms of wealth, California, they passed a bill here that said that fast food workers will earn, is it $20 $20 an hour? So the highest, because minimum wage in America is 7, most states pay 12 to 15. California said they must pay 20 or whatever. The figures escape me now. What happened? Many fast food restaurants in California are closing down. They've converted to electronic. If you go to McDonald's now, you're talking to a screen. You don't talk to a human anymore because it's so costly. They can't employ humans, so they've sacked a lot of people. They've moved to electronic to reduce cost. Nigeria is not California. We are very, very cheap labor, very unproductive labor. Not the individual, but the labor in Nigeria is unproductive because it's still manual. Where is the power supply to do labor in Nigeria? Where's the power supply? So this unproductive labor can only earn more if it becomes productive. If workers in, for instance, Nord can make a car an hour, their salary will go up automatically. But they can't make a car an hour because they have no power supply to make that car an hour. So wages don't operate outside the economy. Wages are part of the economy. You can't take wages and say we're going to pay wages 400,000, but the economy will have only 12 hours power supply. The economy will have only borehole. The economy will have only $1 to 500 to 5,000. It's not possible. It's not possible. I want wages to go up, but Nigeria cannot pay that 4.9 trillion. From where now? Where will we get the 4.9 trillion from? Where are we going to tell me where we're going to get 4.9 trillion from?
Mr. Carlo, I think we should just change the narrative. Let's face government.
You can't just face government. You can't say because
how to get this revenue. Let's change the topic and expanding how they can get it right.
That's the topic. The topic, productivity. That's what I've said. McDonald's, whether we defend or not defend. Yeah, I mean, you know my stance on the government. Whether we defend or not defend, we have to be realistic. If you want to get more money, make the economy productive. That's the answer. You've got to provide power. The government has to provide power supply, roads, infrastructure, and security so that the private sector can create the wealth. Defend or not defend, there is no way you are going to raise 4.9 trillion annually. This is not one time, annually from this economy in Nigeria. There is no way. I get it. They're going to go to 200. So that means if the bill will be about maybe 2.something trillion. Where would you get 2 trillion in this economy every year? Where will you get it from? You will increase VAT. If you increase
from the coastal highway.
Well, I just said that you do an austerity budget, you stop all capital projects, and you take the money from those capital projects to pay human development initiatives. I just said it now. Austerity budget. All this nonsense, you are traveling abroad for training, it stops. Any spending not tied towards human capital, you stop it, including capital projects. So it will hurt us in the long term. But for the next 24 months, you want to stop everything and say we're going to focus on human development index. If it's not tied to food, education, or health, stop it. Then you go directly and you say, okay, what do people need? They need power. Even if it means you are going to subsidize diesel for industries. With that money you're going to take from, say, Ministry of Power, Ministry of Women Affairs. You take it from there and you subsidize diesel for 1 month. You are growing the economy. Right now, it's like your house is burning, but you are going to price tile in Italy. Your house is burning. You should be worried about you are pricing tile in Italy. You are importing. Austerity. This is what Nigeria did in 1983. We are afraid of austerity because austerity makes us lose elections. That's why we don't want to do it. Ask any economist. What Nigeria needs today is an austerity budget, not highfalutin budget where you have ministers doing farm and IT. You don't need all that. Basic needs. What do we need today? Food, water, security. Not even power. Food, water, security. And we don't have it. If you don't face those three things, what are you talking about? What are we doing on Twitter?
Mark, do you think this government is ready for what you're saying?
Mark, let's not hog the space.
With their body language.
But that's what you are asking me questions. I've answered you. I said austerity budget. I'm not doing politics here. I'm not defending. I'm telling you what needs to happen as an economy. I'm not an economist. What needs to happen on terms of the economic strength? Olumide, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are missing the fact that we are not defending government here, and the fact that we are just being like, look at the news from Abuja this school. They are going to disconnect the Ministry of Finance,
that was a
police,
crazy.
Education. This is a federal government.
Ministry of Finance is owing power.
Abuja school. They are owning Abuja school. Like I was talking to someone. I said, see, let's look at federal government's obligation. How the implementation of the budget has been. Since the time I've been looking at budget from Jonathan to present, we've never had an implementation of 60%. We've never had even the budgets we don't even meet the so the fact that it's not that Kalu is defending anybody or protecting. And I understand the fact that Nigerians see anytime we talk about the government, they feel that sometimes we are soft on them. The reality is that they have not helped the matter. I agree. And that is why the optics really upsets me. Because if the president came to power, for example, he ensured that, the optics were lower, was more frugal, it will be very difficult to sell these reforms. But right now, people are not buying it. And I understand the optics, but the reality is that right now, the federal government cannot even meet its present obligations. That's why you see government selling savings bond at 20% just to get in more funds to meet it. But the truth of the matter is that we are not getting things done.
It's cold reality. We can talk from here till next year, but I don't see where the government is going to get 2.3 trillion. AY Suleiman, how are you doing, sir?
Yeah.
AY.
Good evening, everyone.
How are you, sir?
I'm fine. How are you all doing?
We're looking for 2.3 trillion. Do you have 2.3 trillion? The topic of today was the Central Bank of Nigeria wants to their power is going to be taken away from them, given to the Ministry of Finance. We are tying that into the fact that the government wants to borrow money, because if they take it to the Ministry of Finance, they can borrow easier without oversight. Do you want to talk about that, or are you talking about the minimum wage? Which's on your mind?
Let me take this from every angle. Look, we can only whine continuously, but we are all not serious enough to move this country forward. It's like, let me put it this way. The thing Nigeria needs is the right mindset. Honestly, that is just what Nigeria needs. The right mindset. Because when we look at leaders across the globe, there are people with the right mindset. This is just what Nigeria needs. Because I always tell people that whether Tinubu was the one that won 2023 election or whoever won, still Nigeria will still be moving at this pace. Why? Because things are messed up, like real good. A lot of things are just really messed up. So what we just have to be doing right now is to train the next generation to have the right mindset. Because like I tell people, 70% of Nigerians are crooked. They have a crooked mindset. So it's not all about government this, government that. The average Nigerian out there, when he also wants to get in and just have his own share of the national cake. It's not like everybody, everybody means well for Nigeria out there. So the average Nigerian wants to get in and just have his own share of the national cake. So what we have to just be doing right now is to be training the next generation to have the right mindset. Because, they are the only hope of the country. Because, 70% of Nigerians currently, they don't have the right mindset. Everybody is looking for who to cheat this person, cheat the other person. So, this is our problem, honestly. It's not about the leaders alone. It's not about the leaders alone. I mean, when you travel around, you see what is happening. If the government should agree for this 494, trust me, by tomorrow, prices of things in the markets will rise. Why? Because now people have the purchasing power. So we are all like, we need to really get things done ourselves and think, deeply. It's not about government. We can whine from today to tomorrow, like I will tell people. It's not about who wins, honestly. Come 2027, whoever wins, the country will still be moving at this slow pace. Why? Because everything is, corruption. It's not about, government is just 1%. I tell people, government is just 1%. It's the other Nigerians that are 99%.
Let me ask you a question. AY, let me ask you a question. Can you hear me? Yeah, let me ask you a question if you don't mind. Let me ask you a question. Yeah. Do you think that if somebody else had won, this is a question I always get. If somebody else had won, we had Tinubu, we had Atiku, we had Peter Obi. Do you think if somebody else had won, that would have the same problems? Yes, but would the response have been different? What's your take on this?
Honestly, the response will be different. Maybe from but it wouldn't really make that much of a difference, honestly, because let's be realistic with ourselves. This has been the way since back in 2005, EFCC dropped. They said something. They said from 1960 that we gained independence till 2005, the country has been robbed of, was it $500 billion or something like that? I can't remember correctly. So imagine. The country is not like Mr. Who is the person that spoke, MC Donald. He said something. He said it's not like Nigeria is not rich. Nigeria is rich. Nigeria is rich. Look at Japan. We started with Japan. Look at Japan today. So it's not about, I tell people, the quality of leaders, the quality of people, everybody, I don't support any one of them. The quality of people we are voting into office is our problem. We need to begin to have people with the right mindset. It's not about having a PhD in your name, or it's about what can you deliver. And it speaks for itself, honestly. It speaks for itself.
I hear you.
You don't just, Nigerians, we are more we always, wrap ourselves, behind emotions and mainly and some other things, but we have to be realistic in our takes on things.
Gotcha.
Because this will definitely not change. It's not about praying and praying and praying. It's not about wishing good for the country. It's about actually working.
All right.
It's about actually working. That's why we must train the next generation to have a right mindset. That is when Nigeria will progress. Thank you very much.
AY, good comments. I appreciate you. Where are you calling it from? Just to ask.
What did you say? Come again.
Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Zaria, Nigeria.
Zaria. All right, super. All right, nice AY. I appreciate that. Thanks for hopping in. Akin, you've got the floor. AY, thanks so much. Akin, you've got the floor.
So what I want to say is, Kalu, you are right that the government can't increase the salaries so they can't increase the minimum wage. So you are sort of half to 3/4 right. I think what you are not saying is that the government can increase minimum wage by printing money, but then of course the implication is going to be that the price of everything will go up. So if the government wants to say minimum wage is 1 million, they can do it
tomorrow.
But then the problem is that they will print and print and print, and that 1 million will become 30,000 or 19.8.
True.
That it was before. So the question is, when people say, they should go and tax this, government can do this, government can do that. What they are not saying and what they are not really thinking is the trade-off. If you increase minimum wage even to 100,000, if the government agrees to it and they commit that they will pay it, it just means that they are going to print money, and inflation will increase from here. Now, the other thing too is this idea that Nigeria is a rich country. Sorry, Nigeria is not a rich country. If you look at reserves of a lot of natural resources, Nigeria has about 44 natural resources. If you look at the reserves of natural resources in the world, it's only a handful that you can say Nigeria is top 5 in the world, or even top 10. It's literally just a handful, maybe 4 or 5. So you'll be talking of maybe a natural gas, for instance. You'll be talking of a coal, for instance. But when you're talking of lithium, We're talking of lithium, for instance. Everybody's talking about how we should protect our lithium exports, all of that. Nigeria doesn't have much in the way of a lot of these natural resources. We have a sizable commercial amount, agreed, but they are not world-beating. They are not enough that you can say, if we limit the exports of this, it's going to increase the world price for it. Look at even cocoa. You and I know that cocoa now, or a few weeks ago, was reaching $10,000 US. It was because of the failed crops in the Ivory Coast and Ghana. Now, it wasn't because of Nigeria. Before, in the early 60s, if Nigeria said the price of cocoa is $20,000 US, that's what it would be. Nobody can. So this idea that is still ingrained in Nigerians, that Nigeria is somehow a rich country, we should disabuse our mind of it. It's affecting the way we are thinking. And I have to add to what Olumide is saying. Olumide was talking about how we should increase production. I agree we should increase production, but it seems that all our conversation about production in this country is always about agriculture. It's always about agriculture. The thing is, if you think about the geopolitical reality that we are facing today, wars everywhere, so with the Russia-Ukraine thing, and possibility that you could have the South China Sea become a war zone in a few years' time. You and I know that if that kind of thing should happen, even processed goods or high-end goods like laptops, flash drives, mouse, servers, so many things will increase in price. And we'll be in a serious mess right now. So what Nigeria could be doing at this point that will not cost us more money? Send ambassadors, send foreign emissaries to all the African capitals to try to get consensus about the African Free Trade Agreement, to try to ratify it and to ensure that we try as much as possible to move Africa towards a free trade situation. And Nigeria should also increase manufacturing. And I'd say this. I know this is quite an it's quite a controversial view, but I think if you look at the composition of our GDP as a country, for a poor country like Nigeria, we actually invest very little. We don't invest up to 25% of our GDP.
There's no money now.
You cannot become a rich country investing at 17, 18, 19, 20%. We have to find policies that encourages investment, that prioritizes investment over consumption and over government spending and all of that. Because it is increased investment that will increase the exports for us to get the dollars that will bring into the country, that we can then invest in other sectors and all of that. If you look at Korea, if you look at Japan, if you look at Vietnam, if you look at China, if you look at Taiwan, this is what they've been doing over and over and over again. Investment rates of 35, 45, 50 in some cases at some point. Then it drops down to 40, 45, 35. So between 35 and 45%. That's really what we should be going for. But this idea of we increase consumption at the expense of investment is literally robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's like eating your seed corn. You have one corn and you're eating the whole corn because you are hungry today. That is literally what a lot of Nigerians are advocating for when they're saying, we should just boost consumption. Yes, you grow your economy in the short term, but you affect your long-run growth. And you and I know long-run growth will affect our children, it will affect our grandchildren, and whatnot. What we are suffering today as a country is the result of decisions made 20, 30 years ago. And even the decisions made today. We should never ever forget that when we talk about boost consumption. Because if you do that at the expense of investment, we will suffer it in the long run. Thank you.
Good point, Akin. I mean, it's not. We're making this point over and over again. I want the workers to earn 1 million a month, but we can't afford it. I mean, it's as simple as that. We can't afford it because the economy does not generate wealth. The workers in Nigeria are unproductive, not because they are lazy, but because the economy is still manual. If you think of a farmer in Nigeria, what comes to your head? It's a guy in the rural area with a hoe. That's it. Think of a farmer in Ohio. What comes to your mind? It's a guy on a tractor on acres of fields of wheat. So you can't grow wealth when you can't even grow food to feed your baby. You've got to first of all eat before you can talk about building roads. And Ebonyi, sorry, I want to pick on Ebonyi. I'm so sorry if you're from Ebonyi, but Ebonyi typifies what's wrong with the economy. Ebonyi is the poorest state in southern Nigeria. The whole of the south, they're the poorest state. Ebonyi is going to spend 50 billion naira if you add the runway extension to what they've done on an airport. 50 billion. Ebonyi is one of the largest producers of rice in Nigeria. Abakaliki rice, that's Ebonyi. They've got salt, that's Ebonyi. If they took 10% of 50 billion and invested in rice mills, small ones for all the guys in Ebonyi, they will create wealth in the rural areas in Ebonyi. That will then drive consumption. That will then drive education. That will then drive long-term wealth creation in Ebonyi. But no, the governor and the leaders in Ebonyi have gone for a 50 billion naira airport in Ebonyi. How many planes land in Enugu? Talk less Ebonyi. But this is the problem that's what I can say. If you invest wrongly, then of course the outcomes in 10 years are going to hurt you. In 1976, Gowon went to Guyana. There was a strike. His plane landed. No one could fuel his plane. Gowon paid their 6 months salary and told them, our problem in Nigeria is not money. It's how to spend money. It's a true quote. Google it. True quote. He paid 6 months in Guyana. But in those 6 months, he didn't build underground subway in Lagos. He didn't build GSM in Nigeria in the 70s. There are many things. How many ports did he build in Nigeria? But he was prancing around the world telling that our problem was not money, but how to spend it. Today, we have no express road in Nigeria going from the east to the west of Nigeria. There is none. The nearest you have is Lagos-Ibadan. The one from Ibadan to Edo, that's not an express road. That's a 4-lane road. We don't have any express road. The Lagos port, the road from the Lagos port to Ojota is 10 lanes. 10. Then the road from Lagos to Ibadan or Ibini is 4 lanes, just 4 nonsense lanes. But this is a country that had money. There is no road, 10-lane road in Nigeria outside Lagos and Abuja. Show me the one. 10-lane outside Lagos and Abuja. A country that has crude oil revenues. So when you don't spend on activities that generate wealth, you can't just wake up and say you want 400,000 naira minimum wage. What NLC is saying is this. NLC is saying that the roads in Nigeria are bad. So they should buy every worker an SUV. That's what NLC is saying. Buy us SUV because roads are bad. What about fixing the damn road so you don't have to buy an SUV? That's what NLC should be fighting about. Long and short, we need an austerity budget. We have to stop spending money on nonsense and come to our senses and spend money right. You can't be spending money on private jets when your citizens cannot feed. Do you know how much a bag of rice is? People are using key soap. Someone sent me a video. Do you know what key soap is? Palm oil soap. Key soap. A lot of people are using to take their bath today. Key soap. And we are talking of coastal road. People are using bathing with key soap that is just palm oil and sulfur. That one is saying Lagos. That's what you guys are funny. You want 400k from where? How you want to see them? Nobody's spending government here, but you won't see it. If government gives, like I can say, if they give you that money, they will come back and tax you now. Why do you think our topic today is Nigerian Independent Central Bank? They want to position themselves to print money to pay workers. That's why they're taking away MPR and monetary policy from the CBN to the Ministry of Finance, because the Ministry of Finance will then coordinate the printing of naira to pay workers. What's the end goal? Inflation. They will give money with their right hand. They will take with their left hand via inflation. Guys, wake up, wake up. This is not hard to understand. Wake up. JKOV, you've got the floor. JK, what's on your mind?
Hi, thank you very much. I hope you can hear me very well.
Yes, I can.
All right, thank you. All right, so I actually decided to get a mic because of the last two speakers. But I guess, going by the topic, I guess we have to function like probably other major economies function in the world. So if they don't function independently, we have to figure out a way to make our central bank still be connected to the government instead of being independent, right? But I'm going to just counter the last two speakers. From the guy before the last one said, I don't know why I came up with that, because that's totally different from the topic. I think that's being political if you say, if a different person won the last election, it would have been the same. But clearly, you know that's a big lie. It wouldn't have been the same thing,
okay,
right?
Because
when this government came in, we saw how they all, the way they started building houses for the spending. You saw how the whole spending went from the beginning. So how do you want to tell me if a different person won the election? I don't know about Atiku, but we know about the other candidates. I don't want to call names, but Atiku might be a bit close to this kind of this particular government, but we know the Labour government would have done things a lot different, because I think at the end of the day it boils down to how you manage your economy and how you want to do your expenses. That is how you end up being in this situation we are in today. And for if you go back even from when this government came in, it started with subsidies gone, with all those crazy policies, some assault of every kind. And how do you expect things to be different? It came in and said subsidies gone without, any kind of cushioning or any plan to cushion the potential inflation that will result from that. So no plans. And you don't say, it's going to be the same. That's a big lie. And then the last guy said, Nigeria is a poor country. If you just if you go to Nigeria is definitely not a poor country. Nigeria is a very rich country with poor leaders, with dearth of leaders. We have some of the worst leaders in the world with no imagination and no vision.
Yeah, but
that is why
the guy Nigeria GDP per capita is in 1970.
It was better before, Kalu.
So are we are poor now, B?
10 years ago, it was different from what it is today. 10 years ago, it was over 500 billion, right? Today is half of that, right?
But we're poor now, B.
Right or wrong?
Yeah, but are we poor or are we rich? Is Nigeria a poor country, a rich country?
Because we have poor leaders.
No, but is a country... I want to just get one. No, but that's not what I'm asking.
They're managing the economy terribly, Kalu.
No, I'm not.
I was going somewhere before. I was going somewhere before you cut in, right? Because the GDP today, of course, is low, but before it wasn't that low, right? Google today what's Dubai. Dubai, I don't know how big Dubai is, but we all know Dubai as Dubai is not even a country, it's a city, right? Google today how much they made from tourism in 2022 is over $40 billion. If everybody if you don't know today, we all know Nigeria has a better climate than Dubai, right? But if we have any kind of little leader with a good sense of vision, and then start making tourism, even just tourism alone. We're not going to oil, we're not going to agriculture, we're not going just tourism alone, because we, like Peter Obi brought our old gave us the whole idea of how much just Netherlands makes from agriculture alone every year, over $100 billion. I think Niger State is bigger than Netherlands, according to him. We all Googled that and we saw it's true, right? So we're talking about, there is agriculture, we have oil, we have one of the best climates in the world, right? And then we can't do nothing about it, and you say Nigeria is a poor country. No, we have poor leaders that can't even do nothing. That's why we are in the situation where we find ourselves today. So don't tell me Nigeria is a poor country. Nigeria is a rich country with terrible leaders and poor leaders.
Is Arsenal Arsenal a successful football club?
Say that again.
Is Arsenal a successful football club?
But, by the way, I'm an Arsenal fan, so I can still tell you why they find themselves in the situation where they are today. You don't keep Arsene Wenger for over 20 years and expect any miracle.
Why not answer my questions?
From 2006, everything started going downhill because this man wouldn't spend, so you don't even invest.
No, I hear you, but is Arsenal a successful football club?
Okay, the lack of success, we all know that, right? But
because they kept a manager that wasn't productive.
I know, but I'm asking: Are they a successful football
it's the
club?
same thing as we're having a team today. We're having Tinubu
All right.
today, and the poverty is rising daily.
I think the problem.
No, they are not successful enough. I wouldn't say they are successful enough.
Okay.
No,
I think the problem.
I wouldn't say that. They are top 10 most wealthy club in the world, right?
But I didn't ask if they're wealthy. I just. No,
they didn't take a lot of. They didn't get a lot of trophies. You can't say they're a poor club.
You're not asking.
They're in the top 10 every year.
Carlo, I think I should.
Right?
Carlo, please, can I say something?
Please go ahead.
Yeah. So don't say Nigeria.
Oga, you've made. You are not.
Right?
Hold on. Let other people speak. Yeah, go ahead.
Yep. You see, like your argument. I listened to what you said, and I listened to what I can tell authoritatively that Nigeria is not a rich country, potential and output. Now, hold on. Now, if you look at the richest country in terms of natural resources, we have about 190 countries. Nigeria is not in the top 50. You could check it. CIA research it. There's World Geographical. You could check that. Now, the richest country in the world in terms of natural resources is Russia. Now, if you talk of output, the richest country in terms of GDP is the United States. Now, their GDP per capita. Now, the problem with Nigeria is that Nigeria should not be where it is. But we are saying that the way we position ourselves, like this kind of statement, is where a lot of us miss the point. Because Nigeria naturally is not a rich country. And in terms of all ramifications, like I showed you, if you look at the net worth of Russia's natural resources, dollar terms, is 20 times what they are doing. It's 20 times less of what they are doing. They're not even utilizing 1/20 of it. But if you look at the United States, for example, the United States is the third or fourth richest country in terms of natural resources. But if you look at their output, it's much higher than the Russian. What Carlo is trying to tell you is that, see, the world judges output rather than potential. When you say leaders and everything, nobody cares outside. Human capital is natural resources too. The richest countries in the world are heavily invested human capital. Everybody has gone beyond natural resources. Do you see what Taiwan, Japan is doing? I did the top biggest companies in the world. For example, 4 of them are tech companies. They overthrew Saudi Aramco, Nvidia, Google, Apple, Microsoft. So what are you saying? These are companies created by brain, human capital. So when people are saying that you have a force,
but hold on a second. What's your real argument, right? Didn't we have if we got it right, like if we got good leaders to make things work, we wouldn't have been where we are today.
Yes,
we would have called Nigeria a rich country otherwise, right? Okay, so because in the early 80s and thereabouts, we were better than China and other countries or whatever. And today, where are we today? We are nothing. It's because we had bad leaders and we couldn't get it right. Not because we are not rich.
But we're not. But I think the
potentials
but the point is that you are.
If we had better leaders, we won't be where we are today. Then we call Nigeria a rich country, right?
When we got it right, we were.
Look at the insecurity.
Bro, you got to allow others to speak. I don't want to mute you, but you got to allow people to make a point. You just can't keep going on.
Provide power for
the point. I don't want to. Let's not. To an argument. Where I was trying to get to was this. It's in effect, it's what the result. You have to show results. You have to show results and say, yes, we are rich or poor. What's the point of potentials if kids are eating from garbage dumps? Where kids can't go to school, where there's no water in any public tap in any local government area in Nigeria. Any local government in Nigeria, none has running clean water from the tap that you can drink or give to your baby. Then how are we talking about that we're rich? Potential, you can't go to the market and spend potential. In Ghana, in Togo, just near us here, their country seems to work, and they're just near us here. They have almost the same tribe that we have in Nigeria. Cameroon, same thing. I was shocked. Cameroon's per capita GDP is higher than Nigeria. Cameroon, that has a bad leadership as well, or is Paul Biya not bad? So why do they have a better per capita than Nigeria? Wahala there, Shah. I don't want to give excuses. I'm just trying to get a point from you. Onyeka, you've got the floor. Ovia, I appreciate your comments. I really do. Thank you so much for hopping in there. Onyeka, please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Nice conversations. My view is: does Nigeria need an independent central bank? the question has to be answered in relationship to what our developmental policies are as a nation. Okay, so I may not frown at what can be classified an incestuous relationship between the central bank and the developmental policies of the governments of the nation. And we have seen many nations that have done this. Alternatively, we can have the independent central bank, but we must have a development bank that will necessarily channel government funds towards developmental projects. Thank you.
I mean, that's the point again. You see, what Nigerians are running away from is this. We need an austerity budget. This spending money is not going to take us anywhere. There is no money to pay labor, but there should be no money to pay the government too. Tinubu cannot drive around in air-conditioned SUVs and tell NLC that he has no money. He can't do that. And labor can only step down when they see that everybody is in the pain together. This has got to be a complete, should we say, stoppage of spending in Nigeria. You can't buy an SUV for everybody because the roads are bad. That's what Labour is asking for. To pay 400,000 SGD, you can't get that money. If you like, shut down the country for one. And that's the problem. They're going to shut down the economy to get something that they would never ever get. They are not going to get 494,000 monthly. They won't get 200,000 monthly. I think they should they should get more. But Nigeria cannot afford it. And the answer is not the labor strike. The answer is to demand productivity from the government. Demand that the government provides power to industries 24/7. Demand it. Go and demand it. You can't have private jets and there's no power supply. But you can't just go and shut down the road. We will all suffer. That's the point. Your naira will lose value. Your GDP per capita will even go weaker if you shut down the government. I'm not defending government. I'm telling you what will happen. This naira you are defending will get to 2,000 naira for one. When you keep on shutting down the economy, shutting down the ports, not exporting, not doing business, you are killing the economy more. You are Nigerians too. Vehement, you've got the floor. Did I get that name right? Vehement. Go ahead, sir. Vehement, are you there? Yeah, Vehement, we're talking CBN. We're talking CBN, sort of saying that they want to, the Nigerian lawmakers want to take away the power of certain monetary policy rates and, of course, ways and means from the CBN to the Ministry of Finance. We are saying that it's because they want to do a lot of spending and they don't want anyone hiding in their way. What's your take on this?
Yes, I've been following up the news and the news of events as regards that, So it's very clear that the government of the day is not really interested in, boosting up any form of productivity. We are more interested in consumption. And, one of the ways where countries get stronger or countries, become better is by their institutions and even the independence of their institutions to be able to checkmate different policies of government, being we are in a democratic government. So taking away in the independence of institutions, and merging them with, adding to the powers of the government in the center, is definitely not a good idea. Someone says power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. So strengthening our institutions need to be strengthened more at this time, at this period, at this point in time, by making them more independent, and to be able to act on their own. Taking away that power at this point in time, especially when we are going through, so much financial crisis, is definitely not the best. It's definitely not the best at this point in time. So
of course, I don't personally, I don't agree. I don't agree with that issues. So also, I actually wanted, normally I'm just a listener and an observer, but actually also wanted to respond to one of, the speakers, which somebody else has already responded to, the speaker saying, without even trying to make the conversation more political, but saying that whatever government of the day is in power, things will still continue the way they are. Of course, it's not true. And he also the president also talked about changing our mindset, and that we need to focus on the coming generation, to change their mindset, because we, the generation of today and generation above us, we are gone. So, but I believe that is why spaces like this are even important. We don't have to wait for the next generation to change their mindset. We change their mindset now. Educating ourselves and gaining knowledge is the right way, to call the government of the day, to order. You understand? Because one of the reasons I believe Nigeria also got into the mess we have gotten into so far is the lack of civic participation in governance.
Yeah.
We actually need to speak out more, and let the government of the day that, look, we know all these things that are happening, and speak out and say these things are not right.
Okay, well, let's go there. You guys, my DMs are. Let's go there. I'm reading the DMs. Let's go there. So let's be very, very frank. The first budget of the president, the very, very first budget, was where we were seeing was buying SUVs for the First Lady's office. First Lady's office does not need SUVs. If she needs SUVs, she can get them without the budget. But why did they put that in the budget? Because to make the point that we can. That's the only reason that we can. Because you don't need federal government to buy the First Lady of Nigeria an SUV for our office. But they put it there. And that, I think, has set the tone for the government till today. The optics are not right. Tinubu always says, sacrifice, give me time. But he bought a yacht, he bought SUVs, he's traveled abroad. He took 1,000 or so people to, is it Doha? What's that conference there for climate change? He took them there. The point is that he does not give the vibes of a guy that wants to save money. But he's asking his nation to save money. That's where I think is his biggest problem, President Tinubu, is that his optics do not match his words or his policy. That's why no one listens to him. And that's the big problem. That's why NLC is doing what they are doing. I get what NLC is doing. They want maybe 100,000. So they're asking for 400,000. In the end, they will come to, because federal government has said 60,000. So it might come maybe 100,000 and they were able to go home. But this just shows that governance is about what you say, how you say it, and what you do. Tinubu is not giving the vibes of a guy that can do austerity budget. I think he still believes he's running Lagos State. And Lagos State was the richest state in Nigeria. So Lagos State could buy jeeps, could have high recurrent expenditures and get away with it because Lagos State has revenues pouring in. Nigeria does not have revenues pouring in. I was shocked to see that Nigeria does not make up to 1 trillion naira a quarter from oil sales. They don't. They don't. That's the federal government. They don't make up to 1 trillion a quarter from oil sales. And I always thought Nigeria was an oil exporting nation. So I think that's the problem this man is having, the president is having, that people don't believe his austerity or hang with me vibes. So that's why Labour would ask for 400,000. I think even if it was Mr. Atiku or Mr. Peter Obi that had come in and had pursued a more austerity-based budgeting and governance, perhaps Labour would have said, okay, let's give it maybe 24 months and then see what's going to happen. The way it is now, Labour is saying, let's get our own share of the keep for the thing scatters. That's how I see them going. This is just my view. And it just shows you that you've got to run a government with public perception in mind. You can't spend all that money and then come back and say, oh, bear with me, give me more time. WordPress, your word piece. Sorry, sir. Word piece, you've got the floor. Please go ahead.
Hey, hi, thanks, Carlo. Yes, so I think my own contribution is more of a question. And the question is, I have it. why is Nigeria's economy resilient or as resilient as it is? Right? I feel that the figures, GDP per capita, are not it. The data, they are not correct. Okay? Because if it is really true that the GDP per capita figures are that low or the GDP figures are low and the poor people are so high, but that means that they shouldn't really be able to take as many shocks, like inflation shocks and the forex shocks, as they are able to, assimilate. Okay, and the first time I was suspicious of the numbers was, I think, during COVID and when there were lockdowns. I'm like, wait, Nigeria is supposed to have a lot of poor people. How did these people survive this? Okay, and after COVID, fine. Now we have the forex shock and the inflation shock, and they are still able to survive it. And so there's something happening in the economy that, people are not really. I don't know. I don't think we are getting the data right. And so, because even there's still traffic, there's still a lot of buzz. Like, it's still very, very active in Nigeria, right? And so so that's my question. Like, why is the economy so resilient? I feel that our numbers are not accurate.
No, I don't think it has anything to do with the numbers. I think there's a black economy in Nigeria. Every Nigerian has got a side gig. Because that's the only way Nigeria...
That reflects in the data, right?
It doesn't, because it's not captured. That's why when we rebased the GDP, I think under Obasanjo, the GDP doubled. Because we now captured Nollywood, we captured all those service sectors, and then that grew the GDP. That's what we call... So because many sectors are not captured. Vulcanizer that is doing buying agbo, it's not capturing the GDP. Because it's not... How would they capture that? He's not using a card and all that.
Like, if we are not... I think we are using foreign methodologies to account for our GDP, and we are not really accounting for it in the Nigerian way. I think that affecting the way of our discussions around the economy.
GDP is not Nigerian now.
We're not working with accurate data.
I agree. Data might not be 100% accurate, but GDP is not a Nigerian concept. GDP is a foreign concept. And you are trading foreign, you are looking for foreign revenue, so you have to use a foreign concept. You get what I'm saying? You can't say...
It's not about it. Like, it has to have, like, there has to be some corollaries.
You can't say that.
If this happens in the economy, then we expect this. But it's not that way.
You can't say that.
You can't plan based on those figures. Because the reality on ground is just different.
Okay? You can't say you are playing football and you say because you are in Nigeria and the pitch is bad, you can pick up the football with your hand and run to the other post. You can't say that. The rules of soccer are universal. Same with the rules of GDP. You measure output. So you go measure that output and you give a return. That's just it. Ethiopia is using the same figures. Ethiopia, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, they are all using the same foreign GDP figures. Why are they going up?
Which is also where the thing I'm saying, right? Like, we are using Western concepts.
Okay, so use local concepts and use local money now.
The way Africans do things or our own way of structure.
Because you are looking for Western money and Western markets. If you don't want... Not Korea does not do GDP now. Eritrea doesn't do GDP because they don't want Western money. They want their own local money. That's why they're living in a hermit kingdom. So if you want to... If, like, you're coming to my house and I say you must wear blue and you want something from me, you wear blue. If you're going to stay in your house, you can wear white. But if you want to go to the West to raise capital, to open up their trade routes, then you have to follow their own guidelines.
Yeah, okay. So I think that I don't really agree that the point of that data is to get Western money. I think that economics is a science. And as a science, it should have methodologies that tell the truth. Okay? That are accurate. And they are true, they are valid. Right? And so if it's not based on whether you want to get money from the West, it's a science. Economics is a science.
What is wrong? Give me an example of what's wrong.
Those numbers are not...
Give me an example. Give me an example. Which number have you seen that is wrong? Give me like an example.
The way the Nigerian economy behaves...
Give me an example.
...is very, very... I give the example of COVID. Right? At the time, we're the poorest country in the world. Okay, or like we had the highest number of poor people in the world, according to it. And then we locked down, right? And the government, like, it's not as if, we have some social security system and everybody got $2,500 as happened in the West. That didn't happen.
Nigeria didn't lock down.
Okay, well, large parts of Nigeria locked down. I don't know how
Nigeria didn't lock down. I was
there was a lockdown.
I was in America during the lockdown, and I called Nigerians, and it was not the same thing. America locked down. Nigeria didn't lock down. Maybe they stopped traffic, but Nigeria didn't lock down like how the West locked down. So, and again, that's a very, very wide. I wanted to give an example to say, okay, maybe there's no demand doesn't work here or supply doesn't work here. It's the same thing, bro. The economics is a study of human beings. Demand, choices, output, scarcity is the same everywhere. If you sow, you reap. Universal principles. You can't hide behind it's a Western science. We can't do that one here. If you don't, we can't.
I'm not saying it's Western science. I'm saying that the Western people that propounded these concepts were doing it from their own perspective, and our own economy.
But as at 2014, this Western science was delivering positive results in Nigeria. 2014 GDP per capita was nearly 3,000. GDP was booming. Nigeria was listed as top 3 in the entire world to grow using this same Western science. Then now it's not. Now it has crashed. They are saying Western science.
Or the absolute number. My issue is that you can't plan with it. It doesn't tell you much.
But we've been planning with it before now, Oga. Okay, I hear you. I don't know yet. We've been planning with it before. It has been working for us before. In the 1960s, it worked for us. So we can't just wake up and now say it doesn't work for us.
In the 1960s, the GDP per capita was less than 800. Okay? Now, less than $800. Yet, we still went through a civil war, right? And after a 3-year civil war, we were able to come out unscathed, despite the fact that they said, "Oh, it was."
What do you mean unscathed?
There are no countries that can survive that kind of.
What do you mean unscathed? Define unscathed. Define unscathed in financial terms for me. Define that unscathed. What do you mean by unscathed?
Relatively unscathed.
How?
Right?
Define it for me.
Unscathed.
How? Define it for me.
Because people were, as in. Apart from the war zones, the rest of Nigeria, like, people were not having shortages like that. The
Nigerian government, that's where we started Ways and Means from, Oga. The Nigerian federal government borrowed from the central bank.
Still $1 to a pound, or I think how we're pegged to. We didn't have a currency crisis.
I'm explaining to you now. I'm explaining to you why. The federal government of Nigeria borrowed from the Central Bank of Nigeria to prosecute the war. That's exactly where Ways and Means came from. So look at
how come there was no inflation?
Because they borrowed from the Central Bank of Nigeria. I'm giving you the answer directly. Go and pull up the Central Bank of Nigeria's balance sheet. Oga, you are interrupting. Let me talk, then you talk. You've talked, I don't interrupt you. The Nigerian federal government borrowed from the Central Bank of Nigeria. That was why there was no inflation. Look at the Central Bank of Nigeria's balance sheet. Go and pull it up from 1960 to 1965. Then put up 1970. You see the increase in their balance sheet. That's where Ways and Means, this whole idea of borrowing, that's the genesis of all that stuff, from borrowing from the CBN. Remember, the CBN was independent. Before the war, you had central banks for the Western, Midwest, Northern, and Eastern region. It wasn't like how we have it today. So there's a lot of history you're messing up people. Let's move on. Well, just so we can talk about other stuff. Candy, you've got the floor. What's up? Candy, go ahead.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Kalu. Good evening, everybody. I just want to make a brief submission. I think we make a lot of excuses for this government. Like, why can't we arrive at 100K for minimum wage? Is that too much to ask for?
It's not.
Yeah, I believe we've had cumulative bad governance in this country. It has really affected the way we say things. We make so much excuses for this government. The government has been very, very hostile for businesses that are even trying to survive. We know most economies are run by small businesses, SMEs. They contribute a lot to the government. And sometimes private sectors pay better than federal government. But what does the government do? Creating very, very harsh environment, hostile environment for businesses. When GSK was leaving, what were the businesses they cited? One, they cited insecurity, forest scarcity. When P&G was leaving as well, P&G cited port congestion, fuel scarcity, insecurity. I was reading a report like last week when they were analyzing Tinubu's 1 year in office. Over 1.4 million small businesses have had to shut down. What is the government doing about this? Nothing. They've never addressed any of these things. The other day, Mr. Bismarck Mriwani was putting out the numbers. You look at the inflation numbers, they are staggering. What's the government doing? Nothing. No address. They don't even talk to businesses. They don't even talk to people. How do you expect people to even come up with the minimum wage you're trying to arrive at? It's not possible. It's not possible.
Yeah,
when you create a stable environment,
Cindy,
definitely you.
So you're an accountant. So you're an accountant. So let's have a discussion about the numbers of it. Look at the point I'm making. The government today has failed to generate wealth. The government for 8 years before them failed to generate wealth. It's the same political party. So no excuses. The point I'm trying to make is this. We cannot pay NLC or any worker even 100,000 because the reality is that we cannot. Not that we should not, but we simply cannot. If we go ahead, that's where I'm stopping.
I believe if we create a stable environment, investors will come in, and when investors come in, we'll have a boom in the economy. Definitely, government cannot employ everybody and pay that minimum wage. Even if we arrive at 250k, government will not employ everybody. But when government puts out policies that are favorable, businesses will adhere to these policies. But when the government is all about frivolities, they don't even care about people, they don't care about businesses. How do you expect those businesses to pay that amount of money? It's never going to work. It's never going to work. We look at countries like Singapore. How was it transformed? Singapore left from third world country to a second world country and almost moved into a first world country. What did they use? How many natural resources do they have?
See, but would you say as an accountant, if you were advising a company and the company could not afford wages and the company had very, very bad management, I mean, you wouldn't advise them to increase wages because that would kill the going concern. And that's where I'm going to, because
numbers
again,
don't lie, definitely. When you look at the numbers, you take your decisions from the numbers. You either you do away with the management to set the business to the right direction, or you leave the management and the business goes down. There are no two ways about it.
Gotcha. So, and that's the point I'm making, that if Nigeria was a company, as a going concern, that's going to be the number one thing, because you can operate at a loss. You can operate as a loss and still be healthy. But Nigeria, if we pay this, inflation is going to go to 40%.
Yes.
And then not the wahala, the market will increase prices for everybody, not just for civil servants. The dollar, this dollar that we are managing, we are saying 1,500, keep your dollar, it will go to nearly 3,000.
Yes.
Because people would simply take this money and go and buy dollar. That's what will happen. They will simply take this 400k and go and buy dollar. So it doesn't make any sense. And I again, if you're a worker, I completely agree. Your salary is too low. But the medicine and NLC is trying to give you, which is to increase your salary, is nothing. I remember when I wonder how old I was. My father, my mother, it was a Christmas. It was when you do a New Year, the president will read his budget during the New Year. They were waiting that particular night to listen to the budget. Why? Because that's when they're going to announce the minimum wage. I think the minimum wage was increased to 3 naira. I remember I was a little kid. I remember they said 3 naira, and then the people were screaming all over the whole town. It's now 3 naira minimum wage, something like that. Today we are talking 30,000 naira, and we are poorer. We are doing the wrong thing. If you are going the wrong direction, going faster will not solve the problem. We have to change the car and start to come the right direction. The problem in Nigeria is this lack of fiscal federalism and all this nonsense federal character, land use act, census, tying FARC to landmass and minimum responsibility and not derivation. You have created babies that are waiting for feeding bottle from Abuja. There is no wealth being created. A state governor will sit down, wait for allocation from Abuja, get the allocation and go and build ShopRite, and then actually have the guts to come and commission the ShopRite as a dividend of democracy. It's not working. There's no wealth being created. You've got to go back. Even if you don't want to fix these laws that are a problem, say we are going to pass an austerity budget, whether you are federal, state, local government, stop all the spending. Stop everything, and only for the next 24 months, focus on human capital development issues. Then target critical infrastructure. We're going to fix power. We're going to fix roads. End of story. If it's not health or education, stop it. What is humanitarian ministry? What the heck are they doing? Ministry of this, ministry of that. What are they doing? Even education. How much education budget is going to the actual students? How much is going to the minister's convoy, the minister's per diem, minister's accommodation? How much is going to recurrent? How much is going to schools? You have seen UBE schools all over the federation. Poor state. But we're still spending this year. Deficit budget, and people don't understand that this deficit budget is the problem when we are spending on salaries ever increasing. I'm giving you guys the data. Oil money is going to pay only civil servants. Oil money in Nigeria goes to pay only civil servants. So why are you an oil producing nation for only civil servants? Cindy, please go ahead. I don't want to stop your
It's just you just mentioned the points I wanted to make as well. I just wanted to talk about some numbers for like companies that left. Let's look at a company like GSK. GSK has been in Nigeria for a very long time. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, GSK has been in Nigeria for a very long time. When they were leaving, I'm sure they would have looked at the numbers, done their budgets, compared budgets to actual results, and realized that whatever they are doing is not realizable. And they would have done the forecasting and saying that even if we continue, we are never going to actualize our results where we want to be. So the best bet is to leave. And when they leave, when these companies leave, what's the effect? What's the effect on Nigerians? What's the effect on even the GDP? What's the effect? It's going to it boils down, it comes back to everybody. People are worse off, people are poorer. And what happens? FRS has a budget, mind you. FRS will realize this money, whether you like it or not. They'll spread that money across the existing businesses. They don't care if your business closes. They will realize their budget. You find out that sometimes a tax controller's promotion is contingent upon the amount of money he generates. So how is he going to generate his money when all these businesses are shutting down? It's going to come back to all the existing businesses. So, however, what I want to say is the environment is very hostile for businesses. We saw what they did to Landmark. How do you expect investors to come out to such an environment to do business? Yeah. It's not possible. If you could do that to your own, what would you do to a foreigner?
Cynthia,
you have a lot of Nigerians in diaspora who also want to invest in Nigeria. All these things could boost the GDP. But what are we doing? Nothing. It's just frivolities. The government travels. Today they are in Saudi Arabia. Tomorrow they are paying for this. They are paying for unnecessary things that would not benefit anybody or the economy. But what do? We sit down, watch. That's it.
Well, thanks, Cynthia. Thanks for hanging in there. Wonderful comments. Akin, you had something on your mind you want to get out. Let me just get you in before I move on. Akin, you want to say something?
Okay, so I quickly want to talk about what World Peace is saying. The thing is, I will actually argue that Nigeria's GDP per capita is actually about right, if not even slightly lower. There are so many metrics you can use to know that our GDP per capita is actually quite low. If you look at consumption of certain durable goods, things like washing machines, things like number of cars purchased,
GSM usage,
GSM usage, even the kind of GSM people are using. How many Nigerians are using iPhones? How many Nigerians are using Samsung S19? Not to talk of S20. These things you will use to know why is ShopRite or why did ShopRite leave Nigeria. It is not only just because ShopRite is just so that growth was low. They saw that consumption when you adjust it for inflation, so real consumption was actually lower So you can't just simply say, oh, things are just that they're just manufacturing it. The thing is this: yes, our economic data are not exactly accurate, but generally speaking, they are going in the right way in terms of accuracy. We're actually getting more accurate instead of less accurate over time, because more and more people are shining their eyes on the different parts of our economy. So this idea that somehow is just manufactured, it is not manufactured. And the thing is, unfortunately, I just think that our basic grasp of economic ideas in Nigeria is very, very poor. Like, you hear it casually everywhere and all. On the issue of the man that was talking about Nigeria being rich and everything, will you call the DRC a rich country? The DRC has tons of diamonds, cobalt, platinum, nickel, everything. You can't say that. But I'll rest my case on this. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, Singapore has nothing but rocks, rats, and human beings, and they're richer than Nigeria. So we can't say because we have natural endowments that we are rich. Saudi has got crude oil, they are rich. So you've got to show workings. It just can't be because you have potential, then you are rich. Arsenal has potential. They've not won Champions League. Sorry, my Arsenal people, but that's just the truth. Cloaked One, you've got the floor, sir. Mr. Muda, where are you calling from, sir? Mr. Muda, you've got the floor. If you want to speak, or we can move on to... Yeah, go ahead. You're unmuted. Onyeka, what's on your mind? Onyeka, I see your hand up.
Okay.
Your hand is...
beautiful conversations. I just wanted to highlight that we can be doing multiple things at the same time. There is never a time that the government or the country cannot focus on different things. Now, we have seen nations of the world, actively promoting and supporting specific industries that they have looked at and classified important enough for them and their future. We see them being intentional in giving subsidies. I have not said that we should give subsidy, but we must have an industrial policy that is geared towards giving us competitive advantage in specific areas, so we can shun out those services and products at the lowest FOB. This will enable us export. We must export. We have to export. We have to figure out ways of earning foreign revenue.
Gotcha.
So the government has to be intentional, and being intentional and in driving resources towards those specific areas. And there are many. Every part of Nigeria can get one. So it will serve all those that will want to balance, put and unput. Okay,
all
so
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Vasse, Mr. Vasse, how you doing, sir? A woman, I can't hear you. Going once. A woman. Let's get Tinky Winky. Lovely name. Tinky Winky, what's up? Hey guys, if you request to speak, you should speak. Tinky Winky, do you want to speak? Cloaked One, are you ready to speak? Alright guys, I'm just going to remove you guys, so I know you're not going to speak. I'll just take you off the line.
Can I just add something?
Yeah, please go ahead, sir.
So this argument about whether the government is doing right or wrong, like we've always said it, but I understand the fact that a lot of people are really unimpressed about government. So no matter how you speak, they expect nothing less than that. But the reality is that we also need to put inward that, okay, how can we make the system efficient? I listened to what the sister was talking about, the lady, and she highlighted the We've highlighted these problems over and over. In fact, that was why if people really follow what you say or what I say or what I've written, is that we've always complained about the optics, spending, the cost of all these things that we bring in. But now that we have issues like this, the question I'm asking is solutions. How should government come about this? And the only solution we have right now is to cut costs. Because now, if you look at all the outputs right now, it's less than 1.3 million barrels a day. And you understand that it's about mid-year. You look at our population is not slowing down. The only thing that is growing faster in Nigeria is population. If you look at the interest rates that the CBN has been amplifying, at some point, it's going to cool. So when it cools down, it means FPI will take their bags and go. So the question is, why is federal government, why are we not talking in reality that federal government need to take certain costs seriously? Austerity, we spoke about it. I was telling someone, you cannot fight inflation and grow the economy. It doesn't work. I don't know the kind of economics people about. Because when you are fighting inflation, you are tightening something. It's just like somebody tightening your belt. How do you tighten your belt and you be eating like a button? You either vomit or something happens or the belt cuts off. So we cannot tighten the economy at the same time grow the and we all know that we are fighting inflation as the core thing. So I think the bottom line is that the populists are resty. The clampdown on crypto market has worsened a lot of things in the system. Unemployment is very high. Crime rate is high. Companies that are even making money are complaining. So I think we all need to put our hands on desk and find things we can do. Personally, myself, for example, I've got to look at how to improve my own quota, because the truth of the matter is that a lot of Nigerians are jobless. People are hungry. When we don't talk about food inflation, we've spoken for about 3 hours. Nobody has spoken about food inflation. Food inflation is the most important thing facing the average Nigerian. Nobody has spoken about that. So the question is, when we don't talk about the most important thing and we talk about FX, we talk about things, we talk about, because we are outside basics. The country, it doesn't really help. And I think that is why it's very important for us to really take this thing serious. And I close with this. All these musicians, all these Big Brother, all these social gimmicks that we do on social media is not going to help us. The truth of the matter is that we are poor, we should accept it and act on it. Because when we don't keep living fake life, we're going to enter a serious struggle. And I pray we don't get it too late. Thank you.
Well said, sir. Well said. We've just got to do the hard work. We're rounding out now. I think we're going to be out of here in about, say, 5 minutes. S3, I've got you on point. Did you have anything to say, S3?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear, sir. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you. Thank you to everyone that's been contributing. Really insightful. But what I just wanted to add was that in all these things, like, we shouldn't just forget the basic, like, if we're breaking it down to the basic cause of all these problems we are having, if we want to use Occam's razor and get down to the point of it, it's very simple. Someone or some people somewhere are taking what don't belong to them. That's just the issue. Money no day, money no day, money no day. They still don't care. They are still putting their hand in the honey pot and taking what doesn't belong to them. Okay, now the thing has dwindled. They still extend their hand to the bottom of the pot and scrape. They are still scraping the scrap. So, fire on the mountain, there's fire on the mountain. They don't care. If God has mercy on us and touches their hearts, this one now, I'm sorry to be talking about hypotheticals, but I just have to. So if God touches their hearts for us on our behalf and they just, all of them come together and decide to stop taking what doesn't belong to them, do you know that even the process of them stealing, that process is what makes them incompetent in their job. Take, for example, this guy from Kogi. Imagine the time and effort it would have taken him to be making the deals with the principal of his children's school, just so that he can siphon $1 or $2 million. Time you would have used to look into his state, look into the problems that are besieging his state. So that's just the issue. That's just the main issue. If these people if they stop and say, okay, these funds that are coming in, they will not have the clarity of mind to say, okay, this is what we are supposed to do, this is what we are not supposed to do. But they are just after one thing.
All right, Estri,
which is how to take.
Let's just round up. Well, we're about to close. I want you to just round up.
All right, thank you.
You're very, very welcome. Very welcome, yeah. All right, guys, so about to close. Let's just get Cindy, do you want to say anything real quick? I'm just going to, then you and then someone else, then we'll call today.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to ask Mr. Olumide, how do we fight food inflation given the level of insecurity in the country?
Can I just say something quick? Sorry.
I'll say it in 60 seconds. Like I've always highlighted, yes, insecurity is a problem, but it's an excuse. We have three states. We have three states in the southeast, for example, that spends more money on events management than on agriculture. Wow. We have 4 states in the southwest that spend more money on social affairs than on agriculture. So when you say insecurity, sometimes it just baffles me because Adamawa has a food inflation lower than what you have in Lagos. Zamfara has a food inflation rate lower than what you have in Lagos. The food inflation in Borno is lower than what you have in Kwara and Kogi. So yes, insecurity is a problem, but it's an excuse because underinvestment, lack of efficient work output, fertilizer equipment in system has also amplified it. So we have to tackle those things. So I think it's just the fact that the government does not have the will to address the core agriculture. And the sad part is that the constituency is the state and local government that handles agriculture. So the present government looks like they are handicapped, but I think the president can put emergency into play.
All right, then real quick. Let me just see if I can just do this real quick. Yeah. All right, guys. So let me shut down the recording and I'll come back to the space. I'm not going to shut the space down. Thanks for listening to this week's topic. We've been talking about should Nigeria have an independent central bank of Nigeria because of reports that show that the lawmakers in Nigeria want to transfer monetary policy over to the Ministry of Finance and not the central bank. We've said this is because they plan to borrow more from the ways and means and also would like to do more spending, so reducing the MPR will make it cheaper for them. It's bad news. It will increase the velocity of money. It will make Naira lose value. It would add to inflation. So we are against it. So we are educating folks. You need to ask questions and ensure this does not happen. So on that note, I hope you guys will join us next week when we come to your topic. We're bringing in some climate guys and we're trying to tie in climate, the economy, and investment. So that's what's going to happen next week. Hope you guys will join us then. On that note, I'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much. My name is Kalu Aja. You guys have a good one.